Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey-oh!
One day to Friday. We're close.
Almost there.
How you feeling, big guy?
I lost a week off my life. I can't believe it's one day till Friday. What's today's date?
How was Indy?
Parts I remember good. It was good.
The parts you remember were good.
Yeah, it was good.
That's what Indy is for, you know.
3 eventful days.
Man, I wish I could have a camera just following them boys, right? That'd be crazy.
All the good stuff happens.
All the behind the scenes.
A lot of
Yeah,
Jason's
after
life
hours.
is like the movie Hangover.
Where'd you leave your friend?
Where's Joe Varden? What happened to Joe?
Well, I had to text Jay the other day. I'm like, where's my wallet? Did I have my wallet in my chair? And he had to come all the way back down from the studio down here and check.
It wasn't that big a deal. I had just left the weight room, so I was upstairs, and he had just texted me.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll check it on my way out. And I looked, I tore the chair apart, but you did find it.
It was in the drawer in my nightstand. It must have fallen off the nightstand into the drawer.
Hey, Jay, he texted me first.
I texted Mikey
And
first.
And then I had to text you.
Yes, that's right. He said, Mikey said, you're still in the gym. And I just left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a disaster.
Welcome to our Thursday Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. First things first, I know we usually do your bet off the top, but you've got more good news on the diet front, so let's get it out there.
I took 1 week in, I've lost 15 pounds.
There you go, bro.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Let's hear it.
I've lost a pound a day since the initial big loss, but a pound a day since Monday.
Think about how much 15 pounds is, guys.
Yeah.
That's
That's a lot.
You know, you take a 10-pound weight and a 5-pound weight.
Right.
That is less weight that you're carrying around with you every step you take. You must feel better already.
I feel better already. My new jeans are already a little loose, but now's where the real work begins. The second week is when everything gets a little harder. So I took my second injection this morning.
And your cravings, you've noticed, if you had to say they're 20% less, 50% less?
I would say 90% less.
What?
I've only had 2 times in the first week where I was like, I'm really hungry, where it wasn't time for me to eat.
So now if you're no longer fighting the hunger, the other thing that people deal with is the psychological addiction to food and eating.
100%.
How are you dealing with that? Because that's a different issue.
Yeah, because it's just a habit of eating.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes I'm watching TV, I want something to eat.
Right.
It's just like a habit.
It's out of boredom often.
So it's so far it's been fine. But
Good,
again, it's early, we'll see. But so far it hasn't been an issue.
I mean, if we had to give you a letter grade so far, you're an A++.
Thank you.
I mean, you're doing well. I can already tell a difference. Your shirts are loose.
Yeah, well, I had to buy like 3-4 months ago, like a bunch of new clothes because nothing was fitting me.
Right.
So I had to buy all these really
now you
extra,
can go back
extra
to
large.
your old stuff.
And so now I can go back to my normal extra large soon. But
Good.
Long way to go.
We're
But
happy
thank
for you.
guys.
On the
Thanks.
bet front, what a night.
Red hot.
I had no business winning this bet, to be fair. No business whatsoever.
This was a gentleman's victory.
This was a gentleman's victory.
Because the Celtics clearly were like, we're out.
I was already preparing the tweet of like, I'm 0-3 with the Cavs and almost perfect with everybody else. Somehow the Cavs, let's bring it up there, guys. Somehow the Cavs, well, this is the new bet, but somehow the Cavs covered. What was the spread again? 5? I can't remember the exact number.
You got it at 6.
Oh, I had it 6. Right.
Bet Rivers had 6. Bet Jack had 5.
That's right. Wow. But I shut off the game.
Most of us did. Why would you keep? Why? It was a blowout for the
and
third
even with a
quarter
minute to go, they were down 13, I think, or 11.
They were down 11 points with 90 seconds to play.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like 20 minutes later, I see a text from Steve to our group saying, "Hey, Bull got the cover." I'm like, "What?"
Crazy.
And Bull, the
How the
crazy
hell
part,
did that happen?
the Celtics didn't miss free throws. It's not like it was clank, clank, score, clank.
Yeah.
Right.
Darius Garland caught fire, hit a logo 3 to make it a cover, and kudos to you. And we're gonna do PCC later, but we've already seen people in the chat saying I faded Bull last night. And it backfired. So
don't fade me.
Stop,
I'm
stop
7-4 now.
Wait until the game is over before you do any fading.
Can you imagine Celtics fan who bet on Boston?
Somebody lost their house yesterday.
Dave Portnoy, the head of Barstool, had $200,000 on the Celtics last night.
Good.
What?
Screw that
that's
guy.
just stupid.
Screw that guy.
Anybody that would bet anything over 4 figures on a regular season NBA game needs to have their head examined.
I mean, if you're betting that much money, you got to have so much money
Yeah,
that it
but
doesn't matter, right?
I mean, still, if you're willing to throw away $200,000, how about you give it to a homeless shelter? How about you give it to a food bank?
Like you can walk down the street and just hand out $100 bills to people sleeping on the sidewalk.
To 2,000 people.
Yeah, like here you go, dog.
Now, granted, they have their own sports book, so when he gambles and loses money, I'm pretty sure.
We don't want to talk about their sports book. Let's talk about Bet Rivers' sports book.
Their sports book's not as good as Bet Rivers.
Bet Rivers is the best sports book in town. We love it. And here's my bet today. I went outside of Ohio, I think, for the first time. I'm going with your son. How about that? And his school, Rutgers, are an 8.5-point favorite at Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, you think Ohio State's bad? Go watch Minnesota play. They're the only team in the Big Ten worse than Ohio State.
Wow.
Rutgers beat them at Rutgers by like 35 points. Minnesota's lost by at least 8 in all but one of their last dozen games.
That seems like it's stealing.
Now, it's in Minnesota. It's on the road. You never know. And it's not, Rutgers is good, but not great.
But I'll tell you, Rutgers is in a position where they better not screw around or they could get dinked out of the tournament.
Exactly, which is why I think, because this is a game where you think a team like Rutgers late in the season could take their foot off the gas, but they can't afford to.
That's a great bet.
Slip up, so I think they're going to come out and
What's
kick
your
ass.
record right now?
7-4.
Wow, you're going to be 8-4.
Yeah.
Shout out to
that.
There he goes.
This was unintentional.
Shout out.
Rutgers
Worked out nicely.
Shout out to the great Minnesota, conglomerate. Some of the great names: Dave Winfield, Bobby Jackson.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave Winfield drafted in
Tony
baseball,
Dungy.
football, and basketball. That's the most
I know,
crazy
it's unbelievable.
ever.
That's stupid.
The old Browns wide receiver, Dave Logan, I believe also turned
drafted
that
by all
trick.
three?
I believe he was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Dave Winfield was a
think he
first-round pick in baseball.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how.
Winfield could have been a star. He could have
Probably in
been
any
a
of those
legitimate
sports.
star in any three
He's a
sports.
monster of a man.
There was a fight.
Yeah.
If you want to go down the YouTube rabbit hole,
Yes, sir.
Google Ohio State Minnesota basketball fight.
Oh, okay.
You might even find it where you can throw it in tag board.
Yeah.
Dave Winfield was wrecking shop. Probably could have been a pro boxer too, because he was just dropping Buckeyes.
Dave Winfield was huge when not that many guys were huge.
Right.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. Like in those days, they were not like a lot of the guys. In my mind, Darryl Strawberry was huge, but he was just tall. He wasn't really huge.
Yeah.
Back then,
You're right.
For the
Thin.
for the Indians, that was the Angry Black Man Coalition. No games. Y'all couldn't ask certain questions. You had Eddie Murray,
Albert
Bell. Kenny Lofton really wasn't playing with y'all like that. Dave Winfield wasn't.
It's funny you said that. I literally used to. It was the only locker room I ever feared going into. Well, there were times where I wasn't nuts about going in the Buccaneers locker room because of your doppelganger, Warren Sapp. But there were times where I had to go in there and I'm like, I'd rather get a filling with no Novocaine right now.
These dudes, them dudes back then.
Thank God for Jim Tomey.
I mean, look at Dave Winfield. Mike Heath, I think, right?
And then
Catcher Mike Heath.
And look at how imposing he is.
Look at that.
Not just the catcher, but even the umpire.
He looks like a man playing against boys.
He looks like Aaron Judge.
Oh my God.
Oh my God! Right, he was that version's Aaron Judge. I mean, that generation.
I worked with Dave for a number of years at ESPN, and as fearful as he could be, dude was like
I've heard he's a
most
great guy,
pleasant, nice guy. Loved to tell stories.
Yeah.
Had a contagious laugh, and he was just a lot of fun off the field. But don't piss him off on the field or on the court because you're going to feel his wrath.
These dudes crazy.
Yeah, he was nuts. I think we've hit all the nails, right? Do you want to do the bet? You did the bet jackery, didn't you?
No.
Bet Rivers were good.
Oh, Bet Rivers. I'm sorry. So we can dive right in, right?
Dive right in, yep.
All right, let's dive into where we need to start at the top of the show. And when we talk about Kevin Stefanski not saying anything, that's kind of what his news conferences are. His lips are moving, but nothing's coming out. I felt like he did say some things yesterday. I don't know if it's a conscious effort for him to be a little more transparent.
Well,
but
Jay, we talked about this yesterday with Barry because he talked the other day and actually said some things too.
I wonder if
it was bizarre that both of them were saying nothing.
Do you think that's a conscious effort?
Yes.
Because Jimmy was pretty critical of a commentary that got widespread throughout Cleveland.
Right.
They need to be more open. Share more with us.
Looks like they
we're
both
living
did.
this pain too. And I thought that both Barry and Stefanski talked. He spent 20 minutes with the media, said he's going to continue calling plays, talked about the backup quarterback. Alex Van Pelt will double as the quarterback's coach. Bill Musgrave, although he's a consultant or whatever, a special offensive coach, he's not going to work specifically with quarterbacks. And Bubba Ventrone, as we suspected all along, was their guy. and they knew that if they had a chance to get him, they were going to go for it. What stands out the most to Jason? We'll start with you. You were there. What stands out the most to you about what he had to say?
Something that probably sounds weird, but the fact that they're returning AVP to the quarterback role, to the quarterback coach. And I didn't really process this and think of this until after, so I haven't really talked to anyone about it. But, like, that was an opportunity to bring someone in who Deshaun has comfortability with or has passed with or history with, and they chose not to do that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. Maybe that's just vote of confidence in the relationship between Deshaun and AVP.
Right.
Because I'm sure that they consulted with Deshaun. He's the most powerful person in that building. 5-year, $230 million deal. He is the voice in that room that they're listening to. So I can only assume that they checked with Deshaun first before doing that. But that would have been an opportunity if he wanted, if there was someone else that he really liked from his past to work with, to bring in.
The guy he works with and calls his quarterback coach, was he an option?
Quincy Avery, I don't think so.
He sort of is like a tutor. He works with a bunch of different guys.
Yeah, he works with a bunch of different guys.
Yeah.
I think that probably would have been a disaster if they went
You don't want to
that
bring in
route.
a guy's personal guy.
No, it never ends well.
Yeah,
Never.
But I went back, but I think Carl Smith was his quarterbacks coach in Houston when he had his best year, but he's now the assistant head coach in Seattle.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to get him. So maybe there just wasn't anyone available out there who he felt really comfortable with. I just found that curious because obviously with Drew Pensing moving on to Arizona, it creates an opening on the coaching staff. That's an opportunity to bring in someone that he's familiar with, and they chose to just stick with AVP.
Do you think it happened to any protest?
No.
You just think that?
No, I just found
he was in on that decision for sure.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I just found it interesting. Like,
okay,
that's all.
Bull, what stood out to you?
I tell you, what stood out to me, obviously, is that he's not. I guess I'm not surprised, but just that it was good that he made clear that he's going to call plays again. I know some people are hot and bothered by that. I've never been hot and bothered by that. I think, in fact, if anything, it's like, okay, we know the clear line of delineation here. Jim Schwartz is running the offense, the defense. Kevin Stefanski's running the offense. They will be solely to blame if their sides of the ball fail.
Right.
Like Kevin Stefanski is like, well, I'm not switching up now. My job's on the line now. If I'm going down, I'm going down the way I want to go down, which makes sense. I do the same thing if I were him.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah.
Bush?
I'm glad they starting to feel that pressure a little bit. I asked Didi yesterday, did she think that there's a pressure from the way the fan base is looking at it? And she said she didn't think so. I have to disagree with that. What tells me why they feel the pressure is because they are making certain decisions to be more open. They are being more transparent. They are doing things that can help them out a little bit better. And a lot of times people think it's all about on the field. Why do you think they take all companies to these retreats where they do seminars, right? You know, they get you out of your mode, and then they get you in there with a trainer and say, hey, guys, this is the way you guys are actively communicating, and it's causing a few problems. You may not think so because you're rooted in what you've been doing forever. Sometimes when you get coaches, they forget that football is a sport, and yes, X's and O's count, and yes, strategy counts. But what also counts is your communication style, the way you communicate, the way you work with others, and those things matter, and those things can get you to a place where just on the field stuff can't. So I think they feel it a little bit, and I like it. I like the fact that Deshaun Watson is ranked 24th for quarterbacks. I like the fact that Stefanski feels that they have to keep making moves and they got to be aggressive every year, because that sense of urgency is what sharpens steel. And now I think that they really, for the first time, are all in on, hey, listen, we got to worry about these wins and losses, all that other stuff. Let's get it fixed and let's circle these wagons.
There's no gentleman's putt next year.
No, this is it. And to your point earlier about, and I don't expect him to change now, why would he? But there's no insulation layer for Kevin Stefanski.
No, this is it.
If it doesn't work. Where if he would have handed off the play calling duties,
right,
and things didn't go well, there could be a possible scapegoat and reason.
Right.
I talk about a lot on this show because I just was so upset about it when it happened. When Marty Schottenheimer left Cleveland over the rift that he needed to hire an offensive coordinator. And Marty said that he wasn't going to do it. And Art said, well, you can't continue to coach the team if you don't do it. And that was it. We lost a great coach in the process. This situation's a little bit different. I think there's pressure from fans and some media members for Stefanski to give up the play calling. It's what he does best, and he's going to hold tightly to it.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. And
I don't
if it
think
doesn't
there's any
work out,
internal pressure to get rid of play.
I don't think there is either,
Yeah, no.
or it would have happened, I think.
Right.
And I think the bottom line here is he's going to your point, go down with his own philosophy, with his own play
That's right.
calling. Now, I do find it fascinating that Musgrave is coming in here. And I don't know if we talked about this with you or not, Jay. Did we talk about that when you were in on Tuesday?
I don't think so.
He
No,
wasn't
because
here
you were at the
Yeah,
combine. What do you make of that whole thing? Because typically when that happens, it's kind of what was going on in Tennessee with Schwartz on the defensive side. They had a young defensive coordinator. They didn't want to rattle his cage and bring in a guy like Schwartz that had coaching experience and was a well thought of defensive coordinator. So in theory, they didn't give him the title of defensive coordinator, but he was there for a reason, and I'm sure Mike was listening to his input. What's going on with the Musgrave addition, and who should feel threatened by that, if anyone?
I don't think anyone should, honestly. I just think it's another set of eyes and expertise. And the fact that he's not going to be in the quarterback room, I thought was, like Kevin made a point of saying that's not where he is. I think he's going to be more of a consultant type and just someone to lend expertise. But I think it is a little bit different than the Tennessee situation. You're right. Schwartz was a veteran who had a ton of success in that city with that team.
Right.
And I think that's why optically they were trying to keep him away and let the young guy have his time. This is a little bit different, obviously. So I think Musgrave really is just there to lend an ear and lend support and help where he can and offer where he can.
You don't think that it's a sign at all that maybe there's a little bit of lack of trust with AVP? Because at the same time, and Kevin pointed out clearly that the area of domain of AVP now is quarterbacks.
Yeah,
exclusively.
It feels like to me that it's almost like Alex Van Pelt is now the quarterback coach.
That's what it feels like to me.
Musgrave is coming in
as
to help
OC.
Stefanski.
That's what it feels like to me too.
To help
particularly
Stefanski with the
because
game
he
plan.
made such a point. Why would he make such a point and say he's not going to be working with the quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Because the takeaway there is that's AVP's turf.
Right. You see it that way or no?
No, I don't, because frankly, I don't think AVP would stand for it if he was having OC duties stripped from him.
Well, what's
I don't
he
think
gonna
that
do?
would, I don't think well, I think he could find another job.
At this point?
Well, maybe not at this point, but this wasn't just sprung on them. It's not like they just said in March, "Hey, by the way, we're going to bring Bill Musgrave in." You know, I'm sure that was something that was discussed ahead of time.
And if he was uncomfortable with it, he could have walked out.
Yeah, I believe Kevin when he says how much he trusts and likes AVP.
Well, I trust your personal relationship with him. If you say he's not going to say something that he doesn't fully mean, then we'll buy it.
There is a guy on Twitter who I thought said something. I don't know his name. I'm gonna look it up. But he did some research and he talked about how Bill Musgrave was one of those guys who had really specialized and was able to get the running game off the ground in the
shotgun quarterback runs,
which is what they're going to have to do now because Deshaun's going to work out of the shotgun a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think they brought him in as more of a running game coordinator to work with Bill Callahan on how do we get the running game and still have Nick Chubb be effective and Deshaun Watson, how do we get that run game going? And I think that's why he said he's not going to work with the quarterbacks because his area of opportunity or expertise is going to be with the running game.
That makes sense.
I'm all for this. I'm all for having another expert in the room. And what has he been, 12 years as an offensive coordinator? I looked this up. I can't remember.
Yeah,
it's over a decade. He's got a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime you can bring someone into the table that's got that much experience, I think it's only going to help the overall product. So I'm all for it, and I hope everybody has their defined niche, and AVP feels comfortable as the offensive coordinator. But see, to me, I always felt like we never really looked at AVP as the offensive coordinator anyhow.
Because he doesn't call the plays?
Yeah.
But the majority of an offensive coordinator's job is during the week.
It is. You're building the game plan, instilling things that are going to, installing things that are going to work. But at the same time, I think that, like, even in Kansas City,
where I was going to go.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, just like, okay, we had the big debate about Andy Reid saying how they split the play calling and everything.
Yeah.
But that probably wasn't the case 2-3 years ago.
I don't know. He just said this year it was 52-48.
And everyone looked at Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator 2 and 3 years ago.
Did they?
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
See,
But he
I don't
didn't
know. I
get
think
credit.
that's why he couldn't get a job.
He still hasn't gotten credit. By the way, the 52-48 is nonsense.
I agree with
It's
you.
nonsense, of course.
nonsense.
Who's going to track that? Number
Yeah, right,
one.
that's
The
ridiculous.
reason Reed went with 52-48 is because he was trying to
Pump him up.
Right.
pump up his guy.
yeah,
he was
right.
trying to say, look, this guy is
Yeah.
doing it already. Now, whether or not that was the case, I don't know. I mean, we have to trust that
Yeah.
what he told us was true. But to me, I always looked at the Andy Reid Kansas City situation as he's the guy. I mean, Eric is kind of the AVP to the Chiefs that AVP is to the Browns. He's
But
there.
Matt
he's-
Nagy did the same thing in Kansas City, and then he did get a job, and he didn't do a good job as head coach of the Bears.
No.
But there have been other offensive coordinators who didn't call plays and say, and ended up getting new jobs.
I don't know. I don't know. There have been.
That's an example, Matt, right there, Matt Nagy.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean, we're assuming that Reid called all the plays when Nagy was there.
yeah, I mean, I've just always assumed Reid calls most of the plays the whole time.
I don't even think it really matters that much. When
Yeah.
you hear Deshaun Watson talk about it, he says, well, Bill O'Brien used to let him do everything anyway, right? He said most of what I was doing, I was making all the reads and doing all the checks. Basically, Stefanski and his offense, there's a lot of different guardrails, so you don't have to make those moves. So my thing is this. If you're going to give a guy more power, right? So say, for instance, I'm trying to get my daughter to be in gymnastics. I may be able to tell her what to do to be in shape, but I'm going to have to bring in gymnastics people to tell her. And at some point, I got to, pass her off because they know more than I do. I think at this point, Deshaun will probably wants to run an offense that he has a lot of freedom, and he needs a lot of different people to come in and add input into what the offense is supposed to be in terms of being more creative. Because I think they're just gonna make it up. It's not. He hasn't run anything that he's gonna run this year. I don't think Stefanski has run that in the past. And I think they bring.
You think we're looking at 100% offensive redo?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
You have to.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Wow.
not 100%, but,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
I think it's going to look
Mostly.
vastly different than it
Yeah,
did
it's
last
got
year.
to.
You know what was funny was last year in camp, I was talking with Jim Donovan after he had looked at things for a couple of days, and he said this offense doesn't even resemble what the old offense was, and that got me very excited because I didn't want it to resemble what it did the previous year. He's like, they're doing things with Deshaun they've never done before.
Right.
It looks completely, and then I turned on the television. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the same garbage. I've seen all that before.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, how much can they recreate this wheel?
Well, the problem last year was they didn't know how long he was going to be out.
No, I know, but when he came
Even
back,
while they were in training camp, they didn't know how long he was going to
right?
be out.
I get that, but when he came back,
But they weren't working on
they
that
was
new
running-
offense 100% of the time in the offseason.
Yeah,
He was
I-
running Jacoby's playbook when he came back.
I just don't think that, number one, he wasn't the same Deshaun, and number two, there wasn't enough time to completely flip everything. Now there's no excuse. Now you have plenty of time.
well, they were running it in camp though.
I think that was not. I mean, remember that was Deshaun's first time back on the field in quite
Yeah,
a while.
it was.
So I think they were experimenting with, okay, what do we like? What looks good? What are you comfortable with? But again, you can't run that with Jacoby,
no,
and you can't flip the entire thing in 3 days. And plus, Deshaun was unbelievably rusty, far worse than we thought it would be. So I think it was a combination of a lot of factors.
maybe he was rusty because he was running Jacoby's offense.
Well, I think he was rusty because he was rusty, and there was a lot.
But his comfort level wasn't there for sure.
No, I don't think he was comfortable with playing football, frankly.
Right.
But I mean, all of that's gone. But I mean, that's why I said all year, I got killed for it, but I said all year, like, just punt the season, guys. As soon as suspension went to 11 games and they rolled with Jacoby Brissett, told me all I needed to know.
I mean, didn't they
this
kinda
season
punt?
don't matter.
But didn't they? They did punt the season.
That's what I'm saying. They internally, to me, punted the year.
And I killed him for not doing certain moves. But then again, if you look back in hindsight, most teams, most organizations would say, well, I'm not going to make no crazy moves if I don't know if the quarterback, when he's going to be here, because I don't know how they fit with the quarterback.
But the crazy thing is, though, even if they did punt on the year, maybe putting a little bit more effort and trying to go out and get a little bit more to put you over the top, the player they needed in the middle or whatever, that could have been the difference between missing the playoffs and making the playoffs. And we all know that once you get to the party, all bets
but
are off.
I think the reality was by the time we got to the middle of the season, you knew even if somehow the Browns made the playoffs, they weren't going to the Super Bowl.
I mean, they weren't out of it until the loss, really, the second
right,
to last
but they
week
weren't.
of the season.
They were so far behind the top teams in the AFC.
There was nobody to go get. Like they made their decisions in the offseason of Jordan Elliott and Tommy Togiai.
Well,
and
there wasn't, and Dominican Sue early in the season.
But he didn't want to come here.
No, he did. There was the reports from CBS and other outlets that said he's looking at his options, and one of the teams that was on the list of teams that he had interest in were the Browns. So I thought, okay, strike while Now, obviously, he waited until later in the season to go to the Eagles. Maybe he wanted to sit back, take a look at the landscape, and see where he could most easily win a ring.
Yeah.
And that,
He
by that
wasn't
point,
gonna
Cleveland
choose
was
the
out
Browns
of it.
at that point, Jay. They would.
What I'm saying is, for what little bit of money the Eagles spent to get him,
yeah.
if the Browns really wanted to go there, and this is what I kind of buy into your theory, gentleman's punt on the season. When that report hit that he was interested in coming to the Cleveland Browns, I just thought at that point, okay, if you're the Browns, overpay for him. I mean, the amount of money they spent was so
I don't
little.
remember a specific article saying that, like, the Browns, he was interested in the Browns.
Nuggets, Google it. It was a CBS Sports report that's someone
was it
close
like a
to him
speculation?
said, no,
I'll confirm, Jay, but I believe the article you're referring to, and I'll pop back in a sec, was teams interested in Sue, not teams he was interested in playing
maybe I'm
for.
misremembering
So
it.
I'll go find
call
it.
that
Right
up.
quick.
At some point, I do remember hearing that there was interest in Sue in the
Yeah.
Browns.
I mean,
So just do
honestly,
it.
to me, Dominican Sue wouldn't have made a difference in the win-loss record of the Browns.
I don't know,
mean,
man.
he was brought into Philadelphia as a rotational player. He wasn't a starter there.
No, because their line didn't need him to start.
because he's old. I mean,
But is he a dramatic improvement from what we had there?
I don't know at this point.
I also think
I'll
he
say
wasn't
yes.
interested in playing until he chose to play.
Right.
He didn't
That's
want
entirely possible.
He didn't
Right.
want training camp. He didn't want 100-degree summer days.
No, but we
He
were like
didn't even
4 or
want
5
September and
weeks into
October.
the season when this was going on, and I mean, clearly, Browns weren't off to a hot start.
Yeah.
But I think they were 2-2 to start, and things went sideways real quickly
I think
from there.
he signed when he was ready to sign. It's not like the Eagles
Yeah,
were the
but
first team to call.
You
know
can
what
prod
I mean?
a player. If his agent's saying, the market looks like $2 million, which is, I
if-
think, the number
but
that he
if
ended up
you're-
getting.
Yeah.
You can prod a player by saying, Browns are willing to give $4 million.
And
But that's $4 million off of this year's cap they wouldn't have now.
but
so maybe,
I
No,
also
it's been a 1-year deal.
I'm also not
no,
sure.
but the money rolls over if you don't use it.
But I also am not sure that you want to. I mean, they did that with Deshaun, and we'll see how that ends. They did it with Mike Holmgren, and it ended in disaster. Overpaying guys just to get them to come in doesn't always work.
Who was that white defensive lineman they signed from the Ravens? Like 10
Taven
years.
Bryan.
No, that's
No.
Paul Kruger.
Paul Kruger.
Yeah, Paul
Remember they
Kruger.
overpaid that scrub? He sucked here.
Well,
He had
look,
about 8 sacks 1 year.
I mean, but if you're overpaying somebody and it's only $4 million total,
I'm just
I
saying.
mean, by NFL standards, that's nothing.
But I'm just saying, if you're bringing a guy in at gunpoint who doesn't want to be there, and the only reason he's there is for the check, and he really wanted to be elsewhere, a lot of times that's not going to end well.
Well,
for you.
what I am all for, I'm all for them doing what they should have did last year, this year. So they got, look, I guarantee they ain't go gentleman's punt now.
There's no punting
There
now.
ain't
No,
punting
You're
now.
going for it now.
Yeah.
You gentlemen punt, that's like suicide.
Yeah.
A gentleman's punt this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know who survives
No,
a
no,
gentleman's
no, no.
punt.
Everybody's
I don't
getting
know.
fired if it doesn't go
if you
well.
have like a 5-12 season
Everybody's
or 6-11, I don't see anybody that can survive that.
9 and 8 ain't getting it done.
You might
No,
as-
it
I mean,
probably won't.
I mean,
if the
it's-
Browns finish 5-12, that is a bigger disaster than when they went 0-16, because everybody,
because the talent's here.
everybody's getting fired. That means Deshaun Watson is maybe shot, and at a young age.
And where are you now
and
for the
you're
next
locked
4
in,
years?
You're screwed forever.
Go ahead.
So I just found a bunch of the Sue reports.
Yeah.
Everything said the Browns were continuing to monitor Sue, and he had no interest in signing till at least after training camp.
Okay.
There was nothing
No,
that
no,
said.
no. This was an in-season report.
No, but I'm just saying, like, going back to when the reports
Yeah,
first
no,
started,
this
it was
was-
all Browns monitoring
that's-
Sue, not Sue
Yeah, that is not the
necessarily.
report I'm referring to because we did it here on the show, and the season. I think the Browns were either 2-2 or 2-3 at the time.
By the way, before we move on, I wanted to we got to bring up the backup quarterback situation.
Oh yeah. What did he say about it?
I think that they're going to bring in a veteran. I don't think you can roll with Kellen Mond.
No.
But it's interesting because if you look at what I mentioned this to Zach Jackson yesterday on our podcast. If you look at what Indianapolis did with Peyton Manning, they always had a nobody, no money guy behind him because their thought was, if Peyton goes down, we're screwed. So why
And
should
exactly. I don't think teams generally should spend a lot. I think it's overrated. I think in this town, we're obsessed with the backup quarterback. But once you have a good quarterback, and you have to assume Watson is, because if he's not, you're not doing anything anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think the backup quarterback's that important generally.
But I think you
Ask
have
the
to.
49ers what they think about the backup quarterback.
Well, but they're.
But they don't have a good starter. They're
no,
backup.
they're not spending. Well, but you know what though?
They were spending a lot with Jimmy
was
G.
on a big deal, and now they weren't spending a lot of money on Brock Purdy. He was the Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the
They
draft.
stumbled into that.
They did stumble into that, but I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't spend a lot of money on that position because
Right.
at that point the car's already totaled. I
Yeah.
get that, but when you see what happened in San Francisco last year, you can understand the value of having the right guy in that spot.
You know, I would call Marcus Mariota and see what the number is.
I
See
wonder
if he
what
can get
he's
something
going
done.
to command.
It's
He was
not
up
going to be
like,
much.
Wasn't he at like 22 million or something?
It's not going to be much. I
They
think
saved 12 by cutting him.
I mean, I don't know, guys.
I think his days as a starter are over.
How many good teams have a good backup quarterback? There's just not that many.
Not many.
I
It's
mean,
not-
the Chiefs
especially
don't,
when you're committing $55
the
million to your
Bengals
starter.
don't.
Oh, you say the Chiefs don't,
Well,
but I can think of two situations
Henny
where
delivered for
I
him.
know,
He's
but
Just
came in
not
against the
competent. You don't
Browns.
need good. You need
Don't
competent.
talk about that,
Competent
man.
and experienced. I mean, Henny kept their season going
Yeah.
by beating the Browns.
Yeah, but they're not, how much
And-
were they paying Henny? They were
$3
paying
million,
Not
right?
nothing.
Exactly.
But he's
$3
a
million.
competent. He's been around.
But
He's
nobody's
a guy-
saying not get someone competent. But like some of these teams spend $10 million for a backup. That's crazy.
Well, the Browns
you can't
did
do
in
that.
Stefanski's first year.
You can't do that. Well, that was, I think, a different situation because he was trying to find someone familiar
Right.
with what he
now
wanted
that
to
you
run.
have a good quarterback, no team with a good quarterback
I don't
spends big money on a
I
backup.
don't know. This is different. This is a little different. You got a guy with 2 ACL tears.
Doesn't matter. You're paying him $55 million.
Season's over, G. If he gets hurt, the season's over.
If I'm listen,
Who's the backup quarterback
it-
taking the Browns to the playoffs?
Listen, if I'm
It
a
ain't
coach,
Jacoby.
if I'm a coach,
For
Yeah.
sure, that ship sailed 1,000%.
if I'm a coach,
999%.
if it's my job on the line, I'm hedging my bet. I'm sorry, I'm hedging somewhere. I'm not gonna give him
But
$15 million.
name me the backup quarterback of the backup quarterbacks that are going to get paid decent money. Who's going to take the Browns to the playoffs? None.
Jacoby Brissett.
But
he couldn't do it last
You're
year.
probably right. You're probably right. But Bull, here's what's different.
Yeah.
You're saying I'm not going to take insurance on the biggest,
Year.
most important position in pro sports when my career's on the line. Because the front office
Because
is
there's no insurance. If you
no, there is insurance.
No.
The backup quarterback is the insurance.
No,
policy.
the backup quarterback you can't win with the backup
If
quarterback.
this is Major League
Once in a blue moon,
if this is
maybe
Major
you
League
get- you get
Baseball,
lucky.
if
I don't
this
know.
is-
Brock Purdy looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, until he didn't, and they were out.
If
Well,
he got hurt.
No, he got hurt.
Okay,
It wasn't
well, what do you-
until he didn't.
If-
They were on their fourth string quarterback. You can't have three insurance
How many
policies.
situations are like that where you get that lucky?
It worked for them.
Until it didn't.
When Brady went down,
Yeah.
first week of the season with an ACL,
Yeah.
Matt
Garoppolo.
Castle comes in there,
Castle, yep.
and Matt Castle takes
Didn't
the
make
team
the
10 and
playoffs.
6.
And they
Yeah,
didn't
but
make playoffs.
they won 10 games.
But they didn't make the playoffs.
No, but they won 10
We
games.
could come up with all these oddball,
I'm
once
just saying,
in a million year
if I'm the
scenarios.
GM and I know that my career is on the line here,
Yeah.
I'm sure
and
it's
I'm
that.
going to leave it up to a guy that's had 2 torn ACLs, I don't know.
But
Who would have put the line, and it must have been plus a bajillion that we mentioned Matt Castle on back-to-back days here on the Old
He
Testament.
got mentioned yesterday?
Yeah.
We did
Well,
a
the
whole
list
segment
that
on Matt
G
Castle's
referenced
quarterback
that-
list. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
Matt Castle back-to-back. BetJack probably had it at
Yeah.
plus 10,000.
It'll never happen again, I'll tell you that.
It probably won't. But if you don't already know, BetJack is live in the great state of Ohio. Download the BetJack app today so you'll be ready to go in on all the action. BetJack, it is Ohio's sportsbook.
and you could get a competent backup without spending $10 million.
But here's the thing: if this is Major League Baseball, baseball, and there's no salary cap, okay, pay
Right.
Jacoby Brissett $8 million, $10 million, and bring him back.
100%.
When the Browns-
but when you say you're betting on a guy with 2 torn ACLs, you just gave him $230
bet
million.
on
You've
Yes.
already made that bet.
You're right. And 1 year was already lost.
And you can't, with the cap situation, what it is, you can't pay him $55 million and then go give a backup $8 million on top of it.
Aren't we talking about restructuring that?
They are, but I don't know what you're trying to save. You have a lot of other needs to fill.
Yeah, you
Backup
do.
quarterback.
Every move affects the other.
Backup quarterback is not in the top 5,
But
6, 7
all
on
I will
this
tell
team.
you is that if there is one scenario under this plan that if it happens, you are done, and everybody in the front office and the coaching staff is gone.
But that's what I was going to say. Is it's really easiest for us to sit here and say 6-11, 5-12, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, what if Deshaun goes down in week 1?
They're still gone.
Week 2.
gone.
But you have to see how this plays. What if Nick gets hurt? What if Miles gets hurt?
I don't care.
I don't care either.
Unless Deshaun Watson gets hurt for the
Injuries
year.
happen.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if
That, what are you
I
gonna do?
agree
But-
with you in theory. 5-12, 6-11 is a disaster, and everybody's gone. But
So
I need to see it. I
Do
need
you
to
think
see.
there's a scenario where there's a 6-11 and
I'm just saying.
If Deshaun Watson tore his ACL in camp,
Right. If Deshaun
it's
goes down, if
possible.
Deshaun misses 13 games or 12 games, or Nick Chubb gets hurt, or Miles
that's
misses
the
the year.
only way they could have a terrible season, and he might not get
But
fired.
that's what I'm saying. Like
Might not.
I got to
He still
see.
might get fired.
I got to see it.
Yeah.
He might,
Yeah.
but we have to see how it plays
All
out.
right, one thing that they are talking about across the league today, or the last couple of days, is the team's infrastructure.
I wish we would have thought of this because we do player polls all the time.
Yeah,
this
you
was,
know what, though?
This was really good.
I'm going to take a dump on this one, and I'm going
All
to
right,
tell you why
go
once
ahead.
we get into it. Here's the deal. So players across the NFL were asked to rate overall. They were asked to rate food services, nutrition, weight room, strength coaches, training staff, locker room. Is it all on one graphic?
Nope, we got it in three.
By the way, I think we need to make a note here. The grades for the strength coach and the training staff should be ignored because pretty much every team said A on that. Nobody was going to rip the coaches.
Nobody's going to rip the coaches.
Yeah.
One reason I'm going to kill the poll.
Yeah.
That's one reason.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to inject this. One of the reasons I talked to Ethan Posick, 2 reasons he came to Cleveland: Bill Callahan and the Browns strength coach, strength and conditioning.
Right.
So it may be across the board that no one's going to rip him, but that's one guy who came here specifically.
The strength coach, fine. But the Bill Callahan's a non-factor on that list.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes,
Because they didn't talk
But the
about
strength
I'm just
coach,
saying,
yes. Yeah.
those were
But
Ethan's 2 big reasons
To
for
Bull's
choosing
point,
Cleveland. I think he
nobody's
had more
going to
money
rate their
elsewhere.
own weight strength coaching staff D.
No.
They got to work with these guys.
Yeah, right.
So
Jay, we put it in 3 graphics. You want to go through all the grades real quick?
Yeah. Do you have the overall first? You want to
We
start?
do,
overall?
yeah. We'll start with the overall first. Do you want me to just run through it? Because
Yep,
I have the
sure.
graphics. Okay,
Yep.
so this was the overall report. Steve, you can take it full. The Browns received a C overall. That was 21st in the league. The main complaints of the Browns, the weight and the locker rooms were too small. Here's how they broke down on an individual scale. Steve, take the next one. Food and nutrition, D+. That tied for 18th in the league, meaning a lot of teams voted a D+. The weight room, also D+. That was tied 29th. As Bull mentioned, strength coach, A+, tied for first. The training room, B+, tied for fifth. Surprised that's not more. That means very few players and teams gave their own facilities training room higher than a B+. And last but not least, Steve, training staff got an A. Locker room, a D+. That one's tough to look at. It's tied for 22nd. And team travel arrangements was a C, tied for 21st.
Yeah, so overall, outside of the training staff and the outside of the 2 staff questions, the Browns did mediocre to bad and everything else.
Y'all may be able to educate me.
Yeah.
But how is this possible? Didn't they just spend like $8 billion on a basketball team? This is pennies on a dollar, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I think a couple things. Number one, interesting you bring that up. I was told that number is inaccurate on the Bucks.
The $875 million.
It's not accurate, but I don't know what the accurate number is. I couldn't find out what the real number
Like
is.
how would they? What they reported? Well, there's one way it could be inaccurate is if he's not getting 25% of the team.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the valuation information
I
was
saw
wrong.
that from multiple sources.
Yeah.
Maybe
But I
that's the
think-
public evaluation and the real evaluation is different.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, valuation
yeah.
is set after a sale.
I mean, hand up, the Athletics, the one that broke the story and reported it.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
All right, it doesn't
but
really
it was
matter,
our,
I guess.
but-
whether it's 800
but I think
million or 500 million,
because
doesn't
we
matter.
put that number out,
Yeah.
everybody else picked it up.
Well, there was some confusion to the number because ESPN, bad job out of them, in their headline after you guys broke it, got it wrong. They said that he buys the Bucks for $4.5 billion. And that was never the case.
Because it said
now, they
majority
changed it.
stake at first.
Yeah, they changed it. They made it sound like he just was the only owner of the Bucks,
I'm
and
like,
then he
dang.
bought the whole team.
Right.
And I knew that wasn't the case.
Right.
And then after digging some more, I found some more articles that said he bought the minority owners' stakes. Where the 25% number came from, I can't tell you. I don't know if it was you guys that had that number. Somebody had it.
Yeah.
And the math that was done was because the original story said that he purchased these shares at a valuation of $4.5 billion. You did the math.
Yeah.
25% of that is
I think Shams made a
$875
mistake
million.
in his original article. I thought he said controlling interest in the initial article.
Shams did make a mistake in his initial report. He had to
One
clarify.
one way or another, they spent a lot of money.
anyway,
One way or another, they got the bag. Your facilities suck.
I was right. I was told the number was wrong. Our Bucks guy was told that's not the correct. It'll come out eventually. We'll just have to wait for
Anyway,
it.
a lot of money either way.
In terms of this, their indoor practice facility sucks. Like, it is too small.
Blows.
And their locker room is like Ohio State's is nicer than the Browns.
It is nicer.
And that's why, like, if you know where the practice facility is there in Berea, Jimmy bought up all those houses there, and they've knocked them all down, and they've got this plan that they're going to do, but I don't know what it is. Like, they are going to make some changes. They do want to make some upgrades. The locker room is too small. Like,
Wasn't there one person holding out to not sell?
I think there is still one house over there.
Building around. Well, I mean, we've all been in the training room, in the weight room
Yes.
at the training facility.
It's inadequate.
I walked in there, it was like a high school gym.
Especially in training camp.
Yeah,
Guys
it's
are on top of
terrible.
each other. You're stepping over. It's not big enough.
I mean,
No.
I don't understand that. Like, they talking about trying to get a retractable dome roof. You want taxpayers to pay this bread, but your facilities in your own backyard is smaller than a phone booth. I'm confused. How do you have money like that, but be like, yeah, we're planning to do something, but we can't get no weights in here?
The food nutrition grade was low also, which is a lot of teams got that.
Another problem I had with the study, with the poll, 1,300 union members responded to it. The majority of the players, this isn't a league where player movement is prevalent. It's more prevalent today than it once was, but the majority of the players have played for one team. So what do they have to compare it to?
I think that's fair.
If you're going to grade, see, here's what.
But if you know that the locker room is small and you don't have enough space,
But
you
players
don't need
talk
any.
to each other,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, but if I tell you my
And I think there is
experience,
quite a bit of movement.
Yeah, I don't
no,
know.
the league average is 3 years in the league. You can't move until after 3 years, unless you've been cut by 3 or 4
Right,
teams.
there's a lot of
free
back-end
agents.
roster guys like
I
that.
think there's a lot of guys that churn and wind up in different places.
I mean,
Yeah.
Tyvis played for half the teams in the NFC and the AFC, and T played for 10 teams.
You still have to. You need a base. You need a base for this stuff because
Sure.
you're grading against all the others. Like now, if there was a crew of 12 sports writers that spent a week in each team's facility, and then they wrote this massive piece about the comparing and contrasting of the Seahawks compared to the Lions compared to the Browns, I would put a lot of weight in that. But these are players ranking. You know what? You know how I do most of these things when I get them. I don't know. See,
But if
I
you,
get
But
average.
if
I guess.
everybody's in the same boat, then
I don't
Right.
need to know what the Bengals are serving if the food here sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't need to know what the Steelers locker room looks like if I'm like this every time I'm in the locker room.
But if you only eat at one restaurant, do you really know how it compares to the other 31?
well, I like it pretty well if I keep going back to it. If it
the
sucks,
only one
I'm not.
you have.
If
I
it
mean,
sucks,
but
I'm not
some
going
of the-
back.
But you know how that goes too. Eating at the same place every day, like ESPN
Yeah.
when visitors would come, the thing that they would rave most about was the cafeteria.
Yeah,
but
Jay,
the people
first
that
of
work
all-
there, they're like, it's okay.
when grading a training room or a workout facility, like you're not being asked to compare it to another team's training.
No, you're
room
asking. You're asking.
What do you think of it?
You're
What do
giving
you-
it a
what was-
grade,
right?
But,
And so
but what I'm saying is, if I ask, like, there are so many others. It might be the best in the league, but they might think it sucks.
right, but if that were the case, then everybody would grade it a C
But
or below.
I do think Bull's right.
Yeah.
Teams talk all the time. Players
Yeah.
talk all.
I think
We
that
as
factors
media talk. Like
And-
I've never
Bull
been.
might tell me his favorite restaurant. I might go there and say, this is trash. That happens all the time.
Well,
True, but that's only with food.
not with that
in terms
example,
of facilities. But in terms of the food, a lot of the complaints I know with the Bengals, because the Bengals were ranked even lower than the Browns, there was complaint that when the players came in on their off days, the cafeteria wasn't even open. Like that's something that's a problem, obviously.
If you want to
There's-
entice guys to work that extra day.
Actually, to be truthful, the internet is undefeated.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm taking a tour of the Pittsburgh Steelers weight room right now. They got YouTube tours. They even have a poll.
Now, who knows? I get what you're saying. I think if every play, what you're saying is, well, we could find these facilities. I doubt the players went and looked at other teams' facilities.
What? Y'all got to understand something. Stop. Y'all got to understand something. we petty as hell.
Yeah.
If you get 2 pairs of shoes, and I like them, where the hell you get them from?
Yeah.
If you upgrade your facility and you getting filet mignon and steak, why am I not going to be on the, we are, these people
fair.
are rich elitists.
That's right.
They are rich. They're like, I need to be on the end.
And everybody, and again, if everybody's coming from that same, I haven't been to another locker room, then it should be on equal footing.
And the one thing, Mike wants to get in, the one thing Jimmy will do is spend money. They are going to upgrade the facilities, I think. They just got this property within the last couple of years.
Right, so they'll do
I think they're
hopefully.
still trying to figure out what they want to do exactly, and I think it will get
And
upgraded.
the locker room will get better when you have a new stadium. What was the grade for the family, how they treat
they're
the
talking
families?
the Berea
No,
locker
the
room,
Berea
not
locker
Cleveland.
room.
Not Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, my
I mean,
bad.
they
You're
only
right.
use the.
But hey, one thing real quick. Jay asked how many players have never played on other teams or have.
Yeah.
So according to last year's roster, just went through 17 players who played on multiple teams, which means the majority of the team hasn't played.
Right.
But a lot of them come from big-time Power 5 programs.
And them
Yeah, no, that was my other point. If you're comparing
them
it to
LSU
Alabama
or Alabama, Oregon, to
Big
maybe
mistake.
any
Yeah.
NFL
big
facility,
mistake.
Mike,
probably
And that was my other point. a lot of these guys are comparing
But
it to their
again,
college
that's
locker
every
rooms.
player is on equal footing.
The Browns indoor field, I think,
However-
is only 50 yards. Like, it's
I know
awful.
it is woefully inadequate.
What
Yeah.
was their grade for how they treat families and stuff like that? Weight rooms. Where was that grade? I know that was on there
I'll look it up. I'm not sure put it on here.
I don't remember that.
because
I
that
didn't
was
see
what
that.
to me that's one of the most important things
What?
in terms of is a player going to go.
One thing that they added this year, I just
Yeah.
found this out yesterday, is sort of a play area for kids on game day where they can take the kids, and they have like this in-depth facial recognition software.
Wow.
Because they're responsible for the children, and it's really safe and secure, and it's one of those areas. So they are trying to cater
I
to
think I've
families.
walked past that.
Possibly.
I think I've seen that before.
I think this is the most. We haven't even talked about.
Well,
it,
I got it. Well,
Go ahead.
They ranked 22nd in supportive players' families and 25th in post-game gathering area.
All right, never mind. That's
See
pretty
that
bad.
the Browns near the bottom.
Well, but maybe it's great. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's hard to measure.
Post-game
against
gathering
stuff you
area
don't
is
know.
bad. That is bad.
But it's
Yeah.
bad. Like that's an area that you'd be concerned about because that's an area players are talking. Hey, they're not treating our families.
By the
as
way,
nice.
part of the payoff to this was: is it affecting Cleveland's ability to sign free agents? I still say this: it has nothing to do with
No.
their ability to sign free agents.
No.
Two things, guys, that I've talked to. Two things, guys, consider. There's actually three. One is the city. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is: do I have a chance to win? I want to win right
well,
away.
the number one is the money.
Well, it can be, but oftentimes, if the deciding factor, if the money's equal everywhere, then they start saying, well, I know I'm going to get what I'm going to get. What's the city like? And guys that play for Cleveland, we talked about this when we started the show. We were trying to find former Cleveland athletes that still live here. And the number of guys that live here is very low. Bernie lives here. Josh Cribbs lives here. There's a number of guys. Doug Deacon never left. There's a number of guys that have stayed here. But for the most part, the guys that have played here leave, and they don't live here. And one of the things that I always hear about is your airport's trash. I can't get to anywhere direct.
The airport's
I
a
can't,
pain in the neck,
And so
yeah.
those are things that when you know you're going to make $15 million or $18 million, and the market is what it is, you've got 4 teams that are in that ballpark. The things that the guys start looking at is quality of life in the city that you're living in. Weather factors into all of that. Also, your ability to win. That's what controls it.
Of
and
course.
let's face it, for the last 10 years, the Browns have not been in a winning cycle.
Period. To me, that's a big. Am I going to be able to play? What's my role? And do I have a chance to win?
And I think the quarterback plays a role. That's all part of the
It
winner,
does.
too.
Yeah, sure, it does.
One thing interesting, I just learned this recently. Jack Conklin is going to be a forever Clevelander.
Is he?
They're
well,
building.
did he marry a girl from here?
I don't know,
'Cause
but
usually
I don't
that's
think
what
so.
does it.
No, he didn't. He
Really?
didn't. They're both close by. I think they're both Michigan originally, but they're building their forever home on the east side. He really
for them.
wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason with the extension that he got when we all thought he was getting ready to retire, and they signed him for 4 more years. Conklin's will be here forever.
All right.
Good.
Well, the Browns got to do better. Do better. Let's go.
Yeah.
By the way,
Win, and part of that free agent problem
Sure.
will take care of itself.
Massillon, Ohio, a high school team has a better facility than that.
Browns facility is trash, but as Jason said, they did buy up a lot of land around Berea, and they're, hopefully will do a better job when they renovate again.
It's hard to rebuild while you're using it,
Right.
especially in football.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've got all those fields you're using. It's just
Yeah, your downtime each year isn't nearly enough time to start scrapping buildings and building new buildings.
Right.
That takes a year, year and a half in some instances. All right, you have a read, and then we'll move on.
We got to read. We're going to talk a little Cavs. Today's Cavs segment is brought to us by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? Well, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. And just a disappointing Cavs game. I'm just going to say that.
They may have
I'll
had
let you
that
guys
miraculous cover there, Mike, but they played like crap again, Jason.
Yeah, it was really, really. I'm concerned. I mean, I'm very concerned. They're a game and a half now ahead of the Knicks for the 5, and the way things are trending, the Knicks have won 7 or 8 in a row. I'm fearful that the Knicks catch them, and if they do, and the Cavs have to go through New York, I think they're one and done. They're not going to win a road series.
And look at the
Cavs.
I mean, am I crazy that the Cavs have way more talent than the Knicks? I know Jalen Brunson has really exploded and become a star this year.
No,
but
they do. The Cavs should be better.
You know
than
what
the
the
Knicks.
difference is? Coach.
Thibodeau.
Tibbs is getting every last ounce of what he has in New York.
last in the playoffs.
But he also burns quickly.
He does. He's kind of like John Gruden.
He's going to grind and grind and grind, especially his stars, and they all turn on him eventually.
Now, maybe he's learned. I think I mentioned this story before. When he took a year from coaching, he came to ESPN and worked with us, and I was talking with him once about, so I know you know this isn't your last chapter for coaching. What happens in between your last stop and your next stop? And he said something really smart. I think I told this story on the air once, but he said, I'm currently going through a tour of NBA teams. I've got a lot of contacts. I know he went to San Antonio and spent some time with Pop there. But he said, I'm opening up my notebook and figuring out what I've done right and what I've done wrong. And who's telling me this are the programs that I'm visiting that are successful. So that always told me that he was open to that, because that was always one of the criticisms, that he just kills his guys.
Right.
And I don't know. Hopefully he has learned from that. Hopefully he has adjusted for them. But I'm stunned at what he's getting out of that group, because I think you started this segment with the question, I don't know, are they better than us? No.
Right.
If you just
I
look
don't
at the
think
rosters,
they are, so it's pretty disappointing.
No,
right
there's
now.
more talent
Right
here.
now, there's a game and a half difference in the standings.
Right.
And the
It
way
feels
things
like
are
the Knicks are gonna
trending,
catch 'em, yeah.
they're going to catch them. And if that's the case, it's going to be bad for Bickerstaff, because I don't see this team winning a road series no matter who they play on the road.
The only thing
They're
I
not
would
good
say,
enough on the road.
the only thing I would say is, it's 82 games and there's ebbs and flows,
That's
and
true.
it always feels that way. The concerning part is they got absolutely railed against Philadelphia on the road. They got railed last night at Boston on the road.
And those are the top-tier teams.
The top-tier teams.
Jason, I was talking yesterday about how when you look at this team now, we got so enamored by their top 4 guys, which is usually, right, that's what it's all about. But the others are such blob players with no upside.
Their bench should be better than what it is.
Yeah, right?
And I can't, and Rubio's coming off the knee, and everyone kept telling me, you can't really judge him this year. It's next year, the first year back from ACL. It is what it is. It's really your second year back when you regain your legs.
They got nobody with upside on the bench, do they?
I mean, Karis LeVert, Ricky Rubio, and Kevin Love coming into the year should have been enough to give you a pretty good bench. Those are 3 pretty good veterans who should be able to help you. And obviously, we know what happened with Kevin, but they should be better. They should be deeper than what they are. They are very top heavy and relying on those 4 guys. Yeah. And I don't like when they play. I know Mikey was talking about this. I don't like when Donovan says, "Screw it, give it to me and get out of the way."
Yeah,
because
that's a losing formula.
For me, and I've said this before, I don't care about regular season games. It doesn't matter. And just because, no one's talking anymore about the games that the Cavs beat Boston in November, right? Remember how excited everyone was about, oh my God, they beat Boston. I'm like, all right, well, it's November. Who cares?
Right.
Well, now it's March, and everyone's like, oh my God, look at how bad.
And we won't be talking about these games in a month.
But the regular season is about building habits. Build good habits, because in the playoffs, they're going to get the ball out of Donovan's hands. They're going to double him. They're going to blitz him on pick and rolls. Well-coached teams are going to take away what you do best. That's standard formula. So now what else do you got? And for the Cavs to just every time they get down, they just say, screw it, give it to Donovan, get out of the way. I don't think that they're going to get very far playing that way.
I think offensively, they're really tough to watch offensively. To me, I don't know what they're running. They don't even run an offense. Like I watch these other teams, there's no pin downs, there's no baseline action, there's nobody running off screens, there's no picking away, there's no weak side action. All it is two guards asking for pick and rolls at the top of the key every play.
Gee, that's a good point. And I actually mentioned that on the text thing when I was texting with our subscribers, which I will do again Monday night. So
against the Celtics.
Yeah. So if you're a subscriber, right? Is that
right,
what it is?
Mikey?
I don't even know who I'm
If you're a
texting.
subscriber, we might as well do memberships real quick. Sorry to cut you off, Jason. But for
Yeah.
$1.99 a month, you are a Starters tier member. That is awesome. We love our Starters tier members. But unfortunately, you don't get to text with Jason if you're just a Starters tier member. That is for Coaches tier members only for $4.99 a month. You get those overtime videos, member shout-outs, discount codes for merch, plus the ability to text with Jason during select Cavs games, and sometimes it'll be some other UCSS hosts. And it's awesome. Jason's very smart. Allegedly, he is very smart, and he definitely makes you a smarter basketball fan.
By the way, I think we did just add, though, for the $1.99 members, they get the text with the homeless guy that told Jimmy to draft Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, that's the
who they get the
$1.99
text with.
version.
But to G's point, I mentioned this on one of those text things. I listen, I don't study it every single time, but I don't see them calling a ton of plays. And it is a lot of times of just sort of freewheeling and pick and roll basketball. And that's not always a bad thing, but sometimes I think, especially with young teams, you do need a little bit more structure. And you do need, call a horn set, call some of these more basic,
Right.
and help some of these guys.
If you want Evan Mobley to get the ball, call something for him, right?
I've said, they got to get him touches in the first half.
That's it. The thing is Evan Mobley, like we keep talking about the rest of the bench and all that. When you watch where the Cavs need to be, Darius Garland is around 19, 20 points, 8, 9, 10 assists. Evan Mobley is up around 18, 19, 20 points, 12 rebounds. If they don't get that level of production from him and even Jared Allen, they're not going to win. They need him to be a guy.
Don't we know where this is headed, unfortunately? This is headed to a first-round exit and JB getting fired. I mean, that's
what it feels like to
right.
me.
Is it headed that way?
I
You
don't
had to
know
bet
if
right now?
I don't know if he's fired on a first round exit.
Really?
I don't.
2 collapses in a row?
I'll have more to say on. I'm trying to be patient. I'll have more to say on this if that happens, but I'm warning you now. The uncomfortable Donovan conversations are coming a lot faster than anyone wants to admit.
I keep trying to tell people. If you ask, I'm going to always be truthful with it. Listen, collateral damage. If I got a primetime player, I say this about any coach. If Myles Garrett want to roll out, guess who I'm getting rid of? Myles Garrett, the pass rusher, or the coach? Bye, coach. I can get me somebody.
But that's not why.
It's not.
Okay,
a
so
coaching
you've
situation.
teased us. What are you talking
What
about?
you talking about?
Do not get yourself in trouble, Jason. I will not let you.
No, I'm not going to get myself in trouble, but
It's out there.
no, I think, listen, he's got 3 years of control left. So you've got this year, next year, and the year after where you can control him. And then he can leave. So really you have 2 years. You have this year and next year. And then you have one more year of control, and you have to decide if you're going to push all in and play it out and risk the opportunity of him leaving in free agency, or you trade him and recoup as many assets as you can.
Right.
So you really have this year and next. And that's why I say this uncomfortable Donovan conversation, if they get bounced in the first round this year, is coming a lot faster than people realize.
Well, that's why I co-sign what Bull said. This is not a year that they absolutely, for their development down the road, they need 2 playoff series.
Yeah, I think
They
it's
just
a disaster
do.
if they get knocked
because
out in the first
if
round.
if you're taking these baby steps of, well, we were a play-in team, but we didn't get a series. We were a series, but we got bounced in the first round.
Bye Donovan.
Like,
Yeah.
No.
But the flip side of that
there's got to be
is
urgency here.
I agree. But like Darius, Evan, and Jarrett is a pretty good. That's pretty good.
They ain't enough.
But you pushed all in for Donovan, so now it's time to go. That sped up the clock.
That's
Yes.
why you misconstrued what I was saying. What I was saying is exactly what you were saying. He ain't here forever.
Right,
He's here a couple years. And so you use all of these assets to think about it. If you put the trade up for Donovan Mitchell and Deshaun Watson, them trades look a lot alike when you talk about the capital, right? The Cavs gave up a lot in this deal, including Laurie Marketing. So my thing is, if they ain't getting it done this year, that means you got next year.
I think it's a big difference, though, because in the NFL, quarterbacks stay if the team wants them.
Okay, but they still gave up a lot.
Yes, agreed. But in Donovan Mitchell's case, we know he ain't playing the rest of his career here. Whereas if Deshaun Watson's good, I assume he's going to play the rest of his career here.
I would not make that assumption.
I don't know that.
I would not make that assumption.
No.
Guys don't force their way out in the NFL like they do in the NBA.
Sure they do. Lamar Jackson.
He's not forcing his way out.
He kind of is.
He's forcing
He
their
kind
hand.
of is. He is.
I mean, Watson
forcing
forced
his
his way
hand.
out of Houston.
Hey, look, man.
He did.
I need to tell everybody, listen.
I'll be stunned if he's not their quarterback.
Let me tell you about this. These young, predominantly African-American players is not Joe Thomas. They don't care about that loyalty badge. We just gave you a la carte list of what people care about. I'm here to tell you, they don't care nothing about that. They're here to get that bag.
I hear you. I'm just saying, in the NFL, we don't see that kind of movement like we do in the NBA.
I'm telling you, you're about to start seeing that type of movement.
Yeah,
The 12 o'clock hour
players
of the
don't
Ultimate
have the
Cleveland
same
Sports
power.
Show is sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team.
I think we have to change that. The problem with the yellow thing is I can't see it.
I just realized that. We have to figure out a new plan.
I was kicking him.
He's kicking
I mean,
me.
it's
What's
just
the
get in
hell
our
Jason
ear.
kicking
That's what
me
you do for everything else. Just get in our ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so quick. I don't want to. And this is exactly what I didn't want to happen, was to stop the conversation.
There they go.
Instead
Stop
of
the
get in, get out. But
Here's the thing
Hey,
about
I
JB.
get it. The bottom line is, yes, they gave up
One
a lot
of the,
for
one of
both
the
guys.
points that actually McNuggets made this point, and I've thought this a number of times as I've watched the Cavs this year, they have a glaring deficiency. Glaring deficiency. We talked about the three all year long. You made the point, McNuggets, in the text chain that they have absolutely no answers when it comes to stopping premier wings that score. And we saw it again last night. And what they do eventually is they need to provide help on that player. And then you've got guys standing there wide open just dropping
Does
threes
anybody have
all
an
night
answer
long.
for premier wings?
It seems worse with this team.
Well, the answer for Premier Wings is on the ball defense. The Cavs be getting blown by. It be straight line dribbles, and then you got to help, and then you got dudes like Sadiq Bey sitting over there hitting threes,
Killing you.
or Michael Porter Jr. hitting threes.
And the Cavs are 20 whatever in three-point percentage, and
20
teams that low
threes made.
shooting threes don't win the NBA title.
No.
I think that team you saw last night's going to win the championship.
I do too. And I was convinced of that before, but I'm even more convinced of that now.
I think this is their
Betting
year.
against Giannis, huh?
Boston,
They're more of a team.
Giannis is the best player in that series. The Celtics are the better team.
They have better depth.
are you worried about a rookie coach, though, Jason? I know it's
Yes.
taking off topic, but
No, yeah, a little bit, because coaching absolutely matters. And, I mean, we saw Ime Udoka do it. He got there last year as a rookie coach. And we'll see
By the
about
way,
Joe
look how
Mazzulla.
I mean his star has fallen dramatically.
Ime?
because-
Would you
Yeah,
hire him?
because
He'll be a coach next
you
year.
no,
hire
I'm not saying he won't be, but it's like there's so much talent on that team.
Well, it depends how they do in the playoffs.
Oh
though.
yeah, it does. Obviously,
Yeah.
you got to see them make a run, but I agree with you, Jay. I think they're going to win the NBA championship.
Would you hire him, Jason?
Ime Udoka?
Yes.
Why are you doing that to me, G?
I just need to. I'm just talking. I asked the tough
Knowing what I
questions.
think I know,
Right. Would you hire him?
yes.
All right.
Yes.
We saw how this town responded when the Browns went out and got Deshaun Watson. I mean, there was
This
more
is
virtue
different.
signaling over that move than any move I've ever seen in sports, including Aroldis Chapman.
The Udoka thing, and I don't want to. I don't know that I know, so I don't. But I
Right.
think I know, you
Yeah.
know, and I don't
If you
want
know,
to.
you know.
Care. Let's stop it. Teams don't care about any of this.
But-
If the player and the
fan
coach
base
is good
does.
enough, they don't. No,
But-
they don't. The majority of fans wanted Watson when it happened, I think.
Udoka is a lot different than Deshaun. A lot different.
I agree. Their situations are not.
It was
completely-
one
It was
woman compared to
right.
we don't even know how many.
I'm just saying that, if the Cavs, I think the Cavs have their finger on the pulse of the fan base, and I think they saw you'd have to be blind to not see what I know you say more fans wanted Watson than not, and you're right, but that minority became very vocal.
What was the fallout?
Very fast.
What was the fallout?
Well, here's
There's
the
no
fallout.
fallout.
Here's
There's no negative fallout.
Well, here's the ultimate fallout.
Yeah.
He didn't play up to what everybody expected him to do.
Right.
Now, for all those fans that said they've attended their last Browns game, and we
Which
have
is a
no way
lie.
of knowing how many of them did, and how many of them didn't.
95% of them are liars.
We don't know that.
That's
We
my
don't
opinion.
know what.
My
Okay,
opinion.
that is a
Yeah.
wild speculation, but
Allegedly.
Yes.
you can make that. That's in your
Yeah.
view. 95% of them are liars.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that for another team in the city to do that, watching the Browns have to go through what they went through, and the thing of it is, if Deshaun wins ultimately here, that 5% will be on board.
Yeah.
if that's the number. They'll be on board.
Well, we have to be careful.
But
and
it didn't cost the Browns any money.
But we also have to carefully
There are
say
other people you could hire as the coach.
We shouldn't put him in the same situation. Like, he was never accused, Udoka, of any sexual assault or misconduct.
It was consensual.
Yes.
It was consensual.
Here's what goes a long way with me is Jaylen Brown, I think Tatum. I'd have to go back and look. I don't want
there
to
were
name
guys
names.
that
I had to do that story because Boston was here when Brooklyn was getting ready to hire Udoka. So I had to go to Boston shoot-around and talk to their players about it, and they were all incredibly supportive of Ime getting another chance.
Right.
And they know the story. They know what happened. And they all thought, he absolutely deserved another chance. I think the reason it fell through with Brooklyn was it was supposed to be a year suspension, and then it basically wasn't if he went there.
By the way,
7 games in.
A more interesting comparison. I mentioned this I don't know if you guys saw this. I mentioned in our text chain. I won't get into it for a very long time, but I mentioned when Trevor Bauer got cut 2 months ago, I think we all assumed he'd get a job. Well, he don't have a job.
No, I didn't expect he'd be. I didn't think he'd have a job yet, but I think by the end of the day he's going to have a job.
I don't know.
There's going to be a team.
I haven't heard a single rumor.
There will be
about
a team
him
in
signing.
June who,
or maybe in June,
who thinks they're a pitcher away.
Because he's going to stay in shape.
Right. I don't think he'll pitch until July.
Yeah, but he hasn't pitched in 2 years by then.
Neither did Deshaun Watson.
Ime Udoka will be a head coach in the NBA next year.
I agree.
That's a bad comparison, Jay. You said there's a team in June that's desperate for a pitcher.
Yes.
Why would you think a guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years is going to be able to help you?
Because of his track record. We know what he is as a pitcher.
The Guardians signed a year or two ago a guy who hadn't pitched in like 2 years. I forget who it was now. I'd have to go back and look. And I don't think he actually.
And this isn't just a guy. This is a Cy Young guy.
Yeah, but he won. That was in the COVID season, so that's.
He won a. I mean,
that's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's 60 games.
Everybody pitched 60 games.
I know that, but to me, it's not comparable to other Cy Young.
Well, then you just took Shane
so
Bieber's
put an
Cy Young
asterisk
away.
next to it, but he still won it.
I know, but to me,
You took Shane Bieber's Cy Young away then.
I take it away too.
No, I don't.
I don't think it is.
I don't at all.
It's not the same.
It was apples to apples. Everybody pitched the same amount.
I know
Yes,
that, but
but
it's not
it's-
apples to apples with the other Cy Youngs of other
No,
years.
but he was for a year.
But Trevor Bauer, overall in his career, has been a good pitcher at best,
I
not a
disagree
great
with
pitcher.
that. I disagree with that.
He had a couple elite years.
He was elite.
He had
elite.
2, and one was
I
the
said a
COVID
couple.
year. 2, and one was the
That's it.
COVID year.
I'll take it.
That's it.
There will be a team in June that
Yeah,
loses a pitcher, that's desperate, that looks at the landscape, because by then you're 60 games in. Everybody looks around and they go,
I don't
we've
see
got
it.
a shot.
I actually thought he was going to get signed in spring
I
training.
never thought he'd be in spring
But
training.
in the midseason, he's gone 3 years already. I don't see how he's going to help you.
There's too much media scrutiny that will hit you if you bring him in for spring
Again,
training.
we always worry about it. There was media scrutiny on the Browns. It didn't matter. It didn't cost them a dime.
It didn't cost him a dime, but Jason, please tell him that teams consider this stuff. Teams look at the PR side of these moves.
In the end,
that's why he's out of the league right now.
They don't care if the player's good enough; they'll sign him.
That's why he's going to get signed.
It has to be the juice has to be worth the squeeze,
Right.
and it has to be worth the headache and the headlines and the, and the protests.
I think a lot of other players would have been signed already, but a lot of players hate Trevor Bauer. I think that's part of the reason he's not on the team.
Maybe he is done. He's getting older now. What is he? 32,
Look, man,
31?
Early 30s.
I'll just say this, man. In this society, nothing don't matter. You got a dude, George Santos, running around here lying about everything in his life. He's still up there making
It
moves.
doesn't matter. Teams, they don't care.
He's
If
still
somebody
just
saw Trevor
showing up, you'd be like, "Yo, I did." Listen, I was John Wayne's my cousin.
You know why he slides is because everybody knows that everyone in Washington lies. They all lie.
They all lie.
So,
but it's not equal. It's not an equal thing.
The politicians lie.
Some lie more than others.
And
though.
that's kind of the deal. We know that.
Jay,
the joke was, how can you tell a politician is lying if his lips are moving?
Jay, this man made up everything about his life. That's not the same thing.
Right. Well, not everything. He made up things about his life, but there are
made up
other
pretty much
politicians.
everything.
Can I
There are
get the
other
graphic?
politicians that said they were war heroes and they weren't.
Can we get the fight?
A lot of them.
What's going on?
The guy in Connecticut.
You put
the
the yellow.
guy in Connecticut.
You see
I'm throwing the yellow
He
flag.
threw the yellow card. The yellow card.
Flag lunch hour of UCSS is sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team. Fellas, I think it's time for some no fence riders. We have already divided ourselves here on politics.
You don't want to
Let's
argue
divide
about
ourselves.
politics
Do we have-
anymore?
That yellow
I have
card
mine.
is going to be devastating. We
need a red card too. We need a red card.
Hold on, Jason. What do you asked, you received, sir?
Look at that.
asking you
Okay,
receive.
Look at that.
You just can't see it behind the background on the cardboard, so we went with yellow, but we may have to make 2. You guys ready for some No Offense Friday?
Let's do it.
Browns
Sure.
offseason edition.
I had to call my answers up. I forgot them already.
I don't
A
remember
lot,
what I answered.
by the way.
I didn't either.
Besides Jason and Tyvis, who agreed on every single answer, a
is
lot
solid.
of disagreements here between us. So this should
These
be
were
fun.
these were kind of tough.
No, they were.
I thought they were easy.
Did you?
I thought
Because
it was
there were
tough.
some of these I'm like, who knows?
Yeah, I was
I think I know, but
I thought they were easy.
all right, let's go.
And this is I'm gonna tap myself on the back. Halfway decent producing for once on mine, because it's gonna lead us right into Mary Kay, who hopefully will have some great insight on what's going on. So question number 1, Steve.
I mean, the pre-pat yourself on the back before it's been accomplished seems a
Well, these
little
are good
off, but
questions.
go ahead.
At least the questions.
Bull is
He's
Marion
feeling-
Will the
Jones'
Browns-
people today.
Tyvis Powell confident.
Give me your medals back, Marion.
And I won true or false yesterday, by the way, for everyone who wasn't
Did you
here.
really?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
In the worst true or false ever.
Oh, ooh.
Sorry, I
Anthony's
missed
questions.
it.
Anthony asked the question, was Nick Chubb's combine time the fastest ever by a running back?
He really did. It's true. But we love Anthony. We love it. Okay, question number 1.
Poor Anthony.
They did it last year by acquiring Deshaun Watson. This year, will the Browns make a significant trade this offseason? And Jay, you said no.
Yeah, I did because
Everyone else said yes.
my definition of significant is a perennial all-pro player.
Well,
They're not gonna
that's
do that.
and that's where I think we can debate is what
Significant.
What is significant?
What is significant? To me, significant is significant.
Well,
Difference making.
Amari Cooper was a significant
Yes,
trade
he
to
was.
me
Well,
last
he's not a-
year.
Yes,
He's
he
never
was.
been an All-Pro, I
No,
don't think.
but I would say that it's like we talked about it before. The Supreme Court's definition of pornography.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have one, but I know it
You
when
know
I
when
see
you
it.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
I
I
think it's a
see the
difference-making
trades,
player.
like if it's this is a
The
bad
way
example.
I thought of it, if it's a 7th-round pick for a guy that most of us have to Google to figure out who he is, that's
Not
not
even that.
significant.
But if
it
it-
can't even be a name that we all know. It's got to be a guy that
Is he-
makes us get
It's
excited.
a difference-making player. That's
Yes.
how I think about it.
Significant.
And I think they will either trade for a quality a good starting wide receiver, or a good starting defensive tackle. It may not be a Pro Bowler, but I think it'll at least be somebody could potentially be.
That's
a Pro
where
Bowler.
the definition comes in because I don't care if they trade for a starting wide receiver. That's not hard. That's not going to be hard to do because we've got a lot of room.
Yeah, but
to
if you
improve
traded
there.
for a Brandon Cooks, that's
that would be significant.
Yeah.
Yes. So
that's what
if
I'm
you
talking about.
If they get
I'm
Cook,
saying that
if they
level,
get Brandon Cooks,
I think
yes,
they will
I'm
make
wrong.
that level of trade.
I hope
think,
they do.
I think they have too many needs and too many holes to fill them all in free agency and the draft.
Yes.
Therefore,
Yes.
they have to make a trade.
Yes.
I agree with you that
I
they
love
have
it.
to. I'm just not convinced
I
they're going
love
to do it.
I love everything that happens with the Browns with have to on it. I have to get this. I
Yes.
love it.
Yeah, and they have to do it.
They
They've got
do.
too many needs and not enough draft capital to get it done.
You're all in on Deshaun Watson. It's a disaster if it fails. You have to do everything you can to make him better and to supplement him on this team both ways.
All right, what's
Go,
next?
Mikey.
Now we
Question
can revisit
number
this
2.
as it happens. We'll
Question
decide
number
if it's
2.
significant or
That's
not.
right.
Yes.
Will the Browns cut somebody that sends Browns Twitter into an uproar? I am lone on the fence here. I said yes.
Who's
Everyone
your
else
player?
said no. Well, I just figured the Browns Twitter goes in an uproar on anything. If Kevin Stefanski sneezes, he didn't sneeze the right way. Browns Twitter goes
We
crazy.
not very
Do you
high
have a
on the
player
roster.
in mind? Can you even throw
Yeah,
up?
I actually do. And Jason's gonna disagree, but I think there's a chance Wyatt Teller is a cut this
No
season
chance.
based
way.
on guys they bring in and have too much money.
No, he's got too much guaranteed money. He did not have a good year last year, but you can't cut him. He's got,
It's punitive if you do.
I mean,
and you've just created another hole.
Why would you cut? They wouldn't cut him anyway. Even if they, for some reason, wanted to get rid of him,
If,
you
Je-
trade him. Somebody
if
would take
Jedrick
him.
Wills is getting an extension and Conklin's here for life, Teller's not
No,
going
it's
nowhere.
not, listen, they should not cut him. I'm saying I think if they trade for a DeAndre Hopkins and they have too much money and they can't just cut 13 guys for $1 million each and they have to look at one of these guys for significant money.
They're not gonna
I
do
think
that.
Teller coming off injury off his worst season and as a Brown would be the guy that they would cut.
I think that's Mike's worst take in 10 months.
Did JJ3 send anyone into an uproar? I don't think
No.
so.
no.
And
but that
that's,
was expected.
There's
That was
no
expected.
player bigger than him getting cut.
yeah,
I,
but,
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see it.
It's
either.
okay. I'm on the lone
It's
side
okay.
of the fence
Stand
here.
alone, bro.
Then again,
That's
to be
fine.
fair to Mike, it would be a move that none of us expected.
Right.
That
We'd
would
be like,
get
oh
us
my
in an
God, they
uproar.
just cut.
You know?
But who is? They're not cutting Miles. They're not cutting Nick. They're not cutting Deshaun.
I don't even know that if they cut Teller, it would force an uproar on Twitter. I don't.
We're not that,
Because he's not coming off a great year.
We're not high on the roster.
I actually agree with
No.
Mike that it would, but I don't think there's any chance it's going to happen.
It's not happening.
No. I don't think it will
Okay.
either, but I wouldn't be in an
What's the
uproar over it.
definition of an uproar?
Fair. Fair. Okay,
How
well,
many
this
people
one,
have to get angry for it to officially be an uproar?
It has to be a significant uproar. That's how.
So this one, I
Significant.
told you guys before the show, I didn't want to get into in Stefanski because it was a question. We got into it a little bit. And there is a split here. Will the Browns sign a quarterback in free agency? And we touched on this a little bit earlier, but as the fence be fallen, Jay and I are on one side saying they will not sign a quarterback.
I do have a caveat to mine.
No, I don't
Jason,
think they're going to spend a
Bo, and
lot
G
of money on a
all
quarterback.
said
but-
yes.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to – what will happen in my view is they'll bring in 2 undrafted quarterbacks after the draft is over. And I don't consider that signing a free agent.
That is not. That's
No,
a draft
that's
pick.
I mean,
not.
that's – no, it's not a draft pick.
But it's an undrafted guy. That's
mean,
not a
th-
free agent, like a free agent.
No,
signing.
you're right.
No,
He's
no,
agreeing
it's-
with you. He's agreeing
It's a
with you.
free agent pickup.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not going to count that as a move. To me, it would be you sign a free agent that's existing
Right.
in the league.
I think that's what they're going to do is a cheap veteran backup.
I would, yeah, I think, and if Kellen Mond proves that he can handle the job, all the better.
Yeah.
Then cut the veteran, whoever you sign, if it's not
Who
for
was
big
the guy
money.
that he's in Detroit now? We had him a couple of years ago.
Bletch.
I liked him.
the Purdue quarterback, right?
Yes. I liked
just-
him. He was the
his
guy that
name
did the
fell out of my
magic
head.
trick.
Yeah.
Oh, his name just fell out
Purdue
of my
quarterback?
head.
Yeah, I
He
liked
went
him
to
a lot. He
Purdue.
went
They
to
traded
Detroit.
him. They traded him and his 7 for like another 7 or 6 or something.
But I liked him. I thought when he played, I thought he showed
David
real
Blau?
composure.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that's it.
said
That's
Blatch. That
Yeah.
Blatch was a
Blatch?
NBA
You're
player.
thinking David Blatt?
He did everything.
Yeah, he showed composure. He had a nice arm. He made good reads.
Yeah.
And I think he's played some in Detroit and played well, if I'm not mistaken. Does he have a regular season line from last year?
David Blau, give me 1 sec.
Guys, you got to hear this. Dysfunction with a Browns rival is always nice. Doesn't happen very often, but here you
Oh,
go.
just the Ravens DaCosta comment?
Yeah, so Eric DaCosta, the GM of the Ravens yesterday, talked about why they've had a problem with wide receivers for
Right.
Lamar. And he said, if I had an answer, that would probably mean I would have some better receivers. We're going to keep swinging. Well, Rashad Bateman, who was a second-round pick but missed most of last year due to injury, well, I actually think he's a decent player, but he's been hurt.
I thought he was really good last year.
This is what he said. He tweeted this out in response to seeing the Eric DaCosta comments. Just, I don't know when he tweeted this, about an hour ago. How about you play to your players' strength and stop pointing the finger at us and Lamar? Blame the one you let do this. We take heat 24/7 and keep us healthy. Care about us and see what happens. Ain't no promises, though. Tired of y'all lying and capping on players for no reason.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
Damn.
I mean,
Ravens dysfunction. Lamar's pissed. Bateman's
with
pissed.
DaCosta's
Love it.
Ozzy's replacement.
Yeah.
And he pretty much acknowledged that they have a blind spot at drafting receivers.
Yeah, he did.
And I mean, I don't want to hijack this whole segment, but
Sorry, Mike, but I thought that was worth bringing up there for a second. Hijack for a minute.
I told Bull yesterday Burrow's going to get done. I don't think Lamar's getting done. I think he's done in Baltimore. I think he's done.
You said Burrow, you think he's going to get done?
One of them,
Burrow's
either
gonna get done.
ESPN or
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated, ranked the most likely deal to get done at number 1 was Lamar to the Ravens. I don't know what insight they have there.
Yeah.
They seem very confident.
The
that it was
feeling
gonna
at the
happen.
combine was Lamar there's no negotiating going on because
Well,
he's
they could franchise
but
him, though.
he's told them 5 for $250. Like that's it. I'm not budging off that number.
Which is, and the Ravens were pissed at the Browns,
Yep.
and they were pissed for a reason.
Yep.
When they did that deal with Deshaun, they were like, you just wrecked the entire league. You just reset the going
They
price.
didn't wreck the entire league.
So,
but
well,
for some guys,
interestingly enough,
Love it.
Andrew Berry was asked at the combine, do you think this is the standard and is going to be like the new 5 to 10 years from now, these are the norm?
guaranteed part of it.
Yeah, and he said no. Andrew said no. He said, I don't have a crystal ball. He said that twice. I don't have a crystal ball, but no, I don't think so. And the other thing on Lamar, the scuttlebutt at the combine was Lamar to Atlanta makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I've
because-
heard that too.
Yeah, but the hitch in that is Arthur Blank, Atlanta's owner, who Atlanta was in on Deshaun, is tight with Goodell. Like that he's part of the in crew, and the NFL lost its mind over the Deshaun contract. So would Blank then give him what he wants and go to that other
And by
side.
the way, if Baltimore does, then everything they were critical at Cleveland for, they're guilty of as well. Because, they can buck the trend here.
Yeah.
To your point, if Barry thinks it's not going to be the new norm, and by the way, I think it is, but if it's not, then if Baltimore dives in, this is much more likely to become the new
Didn't
trend.
we have another contract signing? Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but Kyler Murray he wasn't that
He's not on that
caliber.
same
it has
tier,
not.
though.
It has not.
What are you
really,
talking about? It was around Kyler Murray signed for over $200 million.
Yeah, but the guaranteed piece of it is the part
It
I'm
was
talking
164 guaranteed.
And that's the
Deshaun
part I'm
deal-
talking
the
about.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So since then, Murray has not. kept
Yeah,
the
but
mark.
I don't put Murray in the same class as Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson.
Well,
He got paid.
I mean,
and
Arizona
he
did,
got
and they
paid.
bet on the wrong pony.
Deshaun is 1 of 1 so far in terms of that contract.
Here's 2 of 2. So all it takes is a couple.
Yeah.
One team.
So
Well,
now
you think Joe Burrow's not going to demand all money?
I think Joe's going to take a hometown discount.
And if
from what it
anybody
sounds
could
like.
do it, it's him.
It's him.
Or Mahomes,
and,
obviously.
And I don't know why we didn't connect these dots. At least I didn't.
Yeah.
I was told basically they took the name off the stadium and sold it to Paycor naming rights to pay Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Like that's why they made that deal. So the Paycor money is going right into Joe's pocket. So that's going to get
Joe-
I'm sure he's going to say, okay, I'll give you a discount, but you better sign Higgins.
Joe-
I'm sure it will be.
Well,
yes.
Cincinnati was emphatic. We are not getting rid of T. Higgins.
Yeah.
What they say? Go find your own wide receiver.
If you want a receiver,
go find
don't come
one
here.
Yeah, don't look.
I
here.
love that quote. I love
I
when
did
GM
too.
stands on a table like that.
I kind of like what the Bengals are doing and this bravado that all of a sudden they're showing. And if Burrow is smart, who's the player he's most been compared to so far?
Brady, of course.
Tom Brady. If he's smart, he watched the entire Man in the Arena. He knows the history, and he understands that over 15 years, if you take $10 million less, yes, it's $150 million less. But if you win in that 10-year, 15-year span, you create an empire for life. That's what Brady's done.
Yeah.
Brady has already capitalized on it monetarily with his post-football contract. How many guys can say that they can enter a field as the highest paid person that's ever done it? Brady is the highest paid NFL broadcaster ever.
Right.
And he's never even done it.
broadcast a down.
That's unbelievable.
And he's done that by winning, and he won by taking less. So Joe Burrow's smart. I think Joe Burrow is very, very smart. And it's bad news for the Browns because we're going to have to deal with this kid for a
he's not
long
going anywhere.
time.
I don't think Lamar is long for Baltimore, but I think Burrow will spend his career in Cincinnati.
I agree.
All right,
Got
Mikey,
2 more
sorry.
fences. That actually was a really interesting pivot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out like that.
like a
Question
good
number 4 comes down to – wait, no. We didn't do 3, Steve. Go back. We'll go back. We actually didn't get to 3. We kind of did earlier.
Oh,
Will the
yeah.
Browns sign a free agency? Jay is a caveat.
We did
You guys
do it.
said yes. Do we have to go any more of that, or we just skip it?
We talked about it. We did it in full.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
yeah, let's
next,
go.
question
Yeah.
number 4. Steve, let's take it right there. Will the Browns spend more money on a defensive lineman or a safety? And this was pretty split. Jay and myself said safety. Everyone else said D-line.
What? You got G.
No, G and
G. Bush
G
did that.
G and
Me and G, you're right. Me and G said
and
safety.
the reason I said safety, even though I don't even agree that safety is their biggest need, I just think there's so much smoke coming from this Jesse Bates thing. Like,
Yeah.
I just think
feel
that.
And we know about the
rumors-
JJ3 thing.
Exactly.
Got to
my
fill
point.
that
I think
hole.
Yeah.
Jesse Bates is going to be their big free
and,
agent.
and so I don't agree with it, but I mean, it just looks
I
like
It
think
can't be their biggest.
But I think they're going to spend on both, and the defensive lineman will get paid more.
Safety is not a premium position.
No, it's not.
Defensive
Me
end is.
either.
They'll
and
spend
we
more
know
on the
that they
line.
are, and their luck at anybody's luck at drafting defensive linemen that come in and have impact right away. It's not an impact position
It's a
right
cra-
away.
it's a
Not
crap-
defensive
So you
tackle,
got to address that either via trade or
Yeah.
a free agency. And I don't disagree with you. They now have a hole at safety, and they have to sign a Bates caliber safety. That's going to be a big dollar. But they better spend more money on a defensive lineman, or we're in big
I was
trouble.
doing the math, and between the JJ3 cut and the restructuring of Watson's contract, which we all expect, they're going to have 30 to 40 million to spend, give or
Right,
take,
yeah.
somewhere in that range. And I think Bates is going to get 15, 16 mil.
I don't
Year.
think they're going to
And-
sign Bates. For all
and
that
that
talk
is-
about it,
You don't?
I don't think-
You don't either. Wow.
But I'm just saying
Who's
that's
it gonna
my
be then?
thinking, and that's half of their space.
I mean, I thought Zach made a great point when I was talking to Zach Jackson about
Plays
it.
from within.
You can find a starting safety in the 4th round. It's just not a position of premium.
The Chiefs seem to do that all the time.
They got to spend money on wide receiver and defensive line. That's where they got to spend their money.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
All right, last one. Will the Browns draft a wide receiver, with their first pick in the draft, whether or not that's pick 42, they trade up, they trade down, just their first pick. Tyvis and Jason said yes, and Jason's died on this hill before. The rest of us, logically, said no. Jason?
I think they stay at 42, and I think there's a lot of depth and talent, and you can find an impact receiver in the second round. By the second round where they're picking, you probably get maybe the 5th or 6th receiver off the board. But if you're going D-line, you're probably looking at 11 or 12 off the board in terms of depth. And I understand every draft is different, but I just think that there's a lot of value at the receiver position in the second round. I think that's where they go.
I just think the smart, the Browns, like most organizations, are best player available. And so the odds are it's not going to be one specific. I'd rather bet on the field than one specific position.
Yeah, I would too. The other thing too is we talk about the Ravens, having a blind spot in the draft at wide receiver. I know that DPJ was a hit late, but I don't even count that. Where they've spent their most draft capital, they have swung and missed so badly that they could have reloaded and swung and missed again. It was,
But it was also third round and below. You have better odds of hitting when you're using the second round pick.
A third round receiver pick should be a difference maker.
I agree.
He should at least be able to get on the field.
I agree.
Schwartz couldn't get on the field.
Difference maker.
And now Bell couldn't get on the
I'd take
field.
playable.
I would too. I mean, if you count the snaps between Schwartz and Bell last year.
Yeah. Now, I'm Schwartz, I think we're all writing off. I'm willing to give Bell certainly another opportunity for a full year. Man. But I'm completely done with Schwartz, and my confidence in Bell is obviously pretty low.
These you can look at them and tell them they not no difference makers like that, man. The Browns ain't never. I said it before. You name me one receiver. We like names. I know. Please don't say Webster, Slaughter, and Langhorne. I get it. I like those guys. But we talk about top flight dudes. There has never been anybody that the Browns have drafted with their hands-on process, developed, and turned into an all-pro. Josh Gordon did it for 1 year. Nobody else. All our best receivers usually come from free agency.
Oh, they haven't had many of those either.
And we ain't had any of those, right? It's just Dante Stallworth comes to mind.
I mean, if you say all pro, you're talking about top tier guy, but
even Pro Bowl.
Even Pro Bowl.
Even a top 10 wide receiver.
Top 10. I'm not top 15 even.
Yeah.
So
the Browns haven't had. Who have they drafted and developed for a top 10 receiver? I mean,
Braylon Edwards had 1 year. You had
Josh Gordon certainly did. For
Josh Gordon had 1 year. Terrell Pryor had a year. He had 1,000.
But even he wasn't a top 10 receiver.
But I'm assuming that they're going to stay. And Zach disagrees with me. Zach thinks they're trading out of 42. I think they stay
down again.
To go up?
To go down.
Oh,
to do what?
Well, that's what they do. But I think they stay at 42.
That's worked well for them.
Yeah. But my point is they took Schwartz. I just looked it up. Schwartz, no, I forgot. Schwartz was 92, I think. Bell was 99. The caliber receiver you should get at 42, they could screw this up, but theoretically should be, George Pickens is what we're talking about at 42. That's not going to be there at 92 or 99.
Well, I look at it this way. If they're going to do that, fine. They still need, that could be a second-tier guy. But I still need another big splash.
That can't be their biggest move.
That can't be the move. That can't just be the guy they bring in.
When we look at the area that they're desperate in, to me, it's so easy defensive line. Wide receiver is an area of need, but defensive line is like the house is on fire. It's a need. It's
for sure.
Desperation.
And I think that's where trade and free agency comes in.
I did see a mock draft the other day from it was either PFF or from McShay, with 4 tight ends going in the first round.
Well, that's
which
kind of
is the best
trend.
Thing possible for the Browns.
Sure,
because teams that need pass catchers, those pass catchers are going to drop further and further down in the draft, which totally gives the Browns something special at 42.
Before you do that, on the tight end front, really quickly, this is that's the trend. That is the impact position in the NFL. The Eagles had a solid tight end.
Yeah, but
obviously,
those guys take forever.
The Chiefs had a terrific tight end. There are some tight ends coming out, though, that they're saying are NFL ready right now.
But they said Kyle Pitts was going to be great. He's done nothing so far.
Pitts was a swing and a miss. You're right. They did say he was going to be great.
I'm not writing him off. I think that's more
I'm not writing him off yet either because he hasn't had a quarterback, but
it took Njoku a little bit of time,
It takes tight ends time to develop.
But it's still, I'm just saying, when you look at the great teams, when Brady and Gronk, Now it's Mahomes and Kelsey.
Yeah.
I just think that, and I think we've got our guy in Njoku already.
The 12 o'clock hour of UCSS is sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, Northeast Ohio's sports team. We want to bring in Mary Kay.
Yes.
Mary Kay's ready. What's up, Mary Kay?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hi, Mary Kay. Settle this for us. Draft pick first for the Browns. Are they going in with a strategy of either DL or wide receiver?
I'll tell you what. It depends on what happens in free trade market. If you end up with the guy that you want, to start for you at defensive tackle in free agency, that frees you up in the draft, and you don't have to get that guy. So it all depends on what happens over the next, I would say, 4 weeks or so, just in terms of who becomes available, who you can sign, or who you can trade for.
I think it's interesting in the NBA. They do free agency and then the draft.
Right.
Whereas in the NFL, they do.
No, NBA does
No,
draft.
they're
I'm sorry,
draft
I flipped
and then
that.
free agency.
Right. Draft
Yeah.
and free agency. Whereas the NFL does free agency and then the draft. So I wonder why the NFL hasn't considered going the other way. But Mary Kay, I think, and by the way, Mary Kay's third straight guest, 3 days in a row, we've had somebody from the Combine. It is so hard to predict what a team's going to do, period, let alone at this time before you know. Are you anticipating? We've been saying, and I've been saying consistently, Browns went all in on Watson, obviously. They've got to spend whatever they got to do to make the team as good as possible around them because they've got to win this year. There's no more wait till next year. It's got to be this year. Do you expect them to be aggressive trades and free agency?
It's an aggressive football team. It's an aggressive front office. So, yes, I expect them to be aggressive just the way that they have been since they arrived on Brown's doorstep in 2020. Andrew Berry has established he's very, very aggressive when it comes to acquiring players and making trades, obviously. I mean, what's more aggressive than going out and getting Deshaun Watson, right? So it's not going to stop just when they are on the brink of accomplishing what they do. So you can expect them to be as aggressive as possible in this upcoming acquisition season and to do everything that they can to get where they want to go.
Most importantly, did everybody behave last night?
It was a late night, as you can see by the dark circles under my eyes.
Without me there to chaperone and babysit everyone, did everyone behave?
That's your job, yeah.
You're all
It was a-
doomed if
it was
he's
a
the
very-
babysitter.
Yeah, it was a very late night, and then I forgot I had 8:20 radio this morning.
Yeah.
So that came around very, very quickly. But as you guys know, as Jason knows well, you got to get out there. You got to work. You got to work the late night hours to talk to people and to run into people. In fact, we saw Joe Woods out late last night, so that was kind of good. We got a chance to talk to Joe and just kind of catch up with him on some certain things, and it was cool.
Did you learn anything that you can share?
No, you know what? I'll tell you what. First of all, Joe Woods is a really great guy. He's a really nice person, but he's also very much of a company man, and he knows exactly what to say and not to say in those situations, regardless of what time of night it is or where you are or what the setting is. He knows how to handle himself in those situations. He's one step away from, being a head coach someday once you rise to the coordinator level. So he just had nothing but good things to say about the Cleveland Browns and about all the guys on that defense, and he was very, very proud. Just wished he could have gotten the job done. He felt they were very, very close, and that with a couple more pieces, they'll be right where they need to be.
All right, so I gotta confess to my blunder, although it was not my fault the other night. So we have this big group dinner at Harry and Izzy's with all the Browns writers, right? And Ashley Bastock, who works at Cleveland.com with Mary Kay, had texted me before we got to Indy and said, oh, we have this dinner set up for like 9:45 or something for one of these nights. And I said, texted her, making fun of her, saying, silly grasshopper, I took care of this last month. I have a table for 10 for us at 7:30 on Tuesday night. All are welcome to come. I get there at 7:30. I strut up to the podium and said, table for 10 for Lloyd. And they said, Mr. Lloyd, that reservation was canceled. Harry and Izzy's in Indy during the Combine week for a table for 10. I don't know how it got canceled, but they did not have our reservation.
So Ashley can't already canceled her reservation?
Well, this was a different night. So like now I'm looking at these guys go and like, I'm like,
you're not getting a table at
Did
that
you ever
point.
figure out how it got canceled?
I have no idea how it got, and I'm like showing everyone like, look at, here's the confirmation number, guys. I'm serious. So Mary Kay and Ashley were both working really late, but the other guys were starving, and we actually had to wait an hour. I can't believe we got in as fast as we did. So we went to Hooters, and I had to buy beers for everyone at Hooters.
Is it possible?
That was his plan the whole time.
Right.
That was Jason's plan from the get-go.
You said it might have been his plan, but I think it's also possible that Jason was so drunk the night before that
No.
he drunkenly called the restaurant and said,
No.
"Screw you, cancel the reservation."
Absolutely not.
You know what?
Absolutely
You got
not.
played. Someone knew that you were making a reservation,
Yeah.
and they needed one, and they called first and said, "Yeah, I'm calling on a Lloyd reservation. I need to cancel that." They took that off the books.
But they said it was canceled electronically, which didn't make any sense.
Oh, wow.
It all worked out. Actually, Mary Kay and Ashley didn't get there till, 8:30 anyway. Right when we sat down, they showed up like 15
Right.
minutes later, so it worked out perfectly for them.
Yeah, right.
But everyone else is like, Lloyd, that's the last time you're in charge of anything ever.
Yeah, well, once Ashley and I discovered that you guys had to spend an hour over at Hooters and that the drinks were on Jason, we knew that there was a little bit of strategy to this, and we're not buying the canceled story at all. So,
I wouldn't either.
we get it.
Mary Kay, is there a developing storyline from this year's combine? Something that maybe wasn't expected to be a big story, but has become one?
No, we kicked it off obviously with sort of confirmation of what we've known for a long time, that John Johnson 3, I'd been trying to shade it that he was probably going to be gone, knowing that was really probably going to be the case. But, I kind of had to couch it a little bit by saying that, sure, he could be traded or he could be restructured, but who's going to, take on a $13.5 million contract when, you're pretty sure that the Browns are probably going to have to do something with him anyway. So, it's just that kind of thing, is watching over the next 2 weeks to see how they get under the cap. Now, I don't think there will be big departures like that in terms of name guys. There could be a trade here or there, but I don't expect that you will see the core of this football team broken up any more than it is right now. I don't think there's going to be a blockbuster trade for, I've heard a lot of different names kicked around. I just don't see any of those things happening.
Mary Kay, what position is going to have the biggest upgrade or the biggest name in the offseason? Is it going to be at a receiver, maybe linebacker, defensive lineman, edge rusher, safety? Safeties come up, with this Jesse Bates talk now. Where do you see the biggest name dropping for the Browns this offseason?
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think it has to be an either or situation. I think the needs on this football team are pretty clear, and I think that they will set about filling those needs as best they can in this upcoming acquisition season. And, we know what those things are. They have to get a really good defensive tackle. They've got to get a really good number 2 edge, and they've got to get a really fast receiver. Those things, they have to do that. And safety, with John Johnson leaving, they need that too. I wrote the other day that Jesse Bates, the Bengals' Jesse Bates, is on the radar. I'll be writing a little bit more about some guys that I think are on the radar at these other positions very soon. And but they will go out and will try to fill these positions. And what they don't end up getting in free agency and trades will certainly fill in the gaps with the draft. But everyone always asks me, what's more important, the defensive tackle or the wide receiver? I think they're both important. Right. I think you have to give Sean Watson another really good weapon, if for no other reason, because Amari Cooper, he's got a core muscle injury, and if he doesn't get that repaired at any time next season, that could flare up on him, and then he's, not as fast as he usually is. So I just think that you've got to really be on top of that and give him at least another really good Pro Bowl caliber target. And, but you just can't end up without a defensive tackle over these next 2 months.
Mary Kay, 2 years in a row, they've had to move on from their top free agent signing, Austin Hooper last year, JJ3 this year, dead cap money, a significant amount of dead cap money tied to both. You've covered this league a lot longer than I have. Why does it seem that they do better on the margins in free agency than they do with their headline guys? When I think of Ethan Posick was a home run. I even give him Malik Jackson on a 1-year deal, served his purpose and did well. but it seems when they shell out big money in free agency, they don't get the return that they should. Is that normal when you're just running the risk of free agency, or I just don't get why they do better on the margins than they do on the big spends?
Well, first of all, I think it has something like that. If you are that good and that valuable, your team is going to try to find a way to keep you. They're going to do anything that they can do. They'll clear cap space. They will do whatever they need. If a big name player, if someone is parting with a big name player, then usually there is some red flag in their past, or there's something that makes their current team decide that they don't need them anymore. Now, it's not like that. I mean, sometimes you have to let good guys walk, like in the case of Ethan Posick. I mean, there's a very good chance that, he's going to hit the jackpot and go somewhere else. But a lot of times when you do end up signing it, there was a pretty good reason why the team was willing to let him walk. So you have to be careful of those things. Sometimes you don't know what those things are until you get them in the building, and then you find out, oh, well, this is why that didn't work out. But then the other thing is, like with a JJ3, his dead cap hit will only be a little bit over $3 million, $3.75 million if he's a June 1st designation. And that's, in the grand scheme of things, that's not horrible. That's not like really, really bad in terms of free agency and the money that sometimes flies out the window.
Mary Kay, the last 2 days, both Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, who usually give nothing in press conferences, pulled the curtain back a tiny bit and were a little more forthcoming than they generally are. Not talking when they talk with you or Jason one-on-one, but like in these public settings. Do you think that was on purpose or coincidence?
Well, here at the NFL Combine, in addition to the podium interview, you then get a 15-minute sort of sidebar interview, which is just supposed to be for Browns writers. And for the most part, it is that. Sometimes, somebody else will step up in there. But for the most part, that's just, them and us. And so it lends itself to getting all of your questions. It lends itself to a little bit more flow in the interview. And so you can get them to open up a little bit more that way. It's just way different than sitting in Berea with them up at the, at a deck. It's just that, and, us trying to squeeze one question in a 20-minute press conference or whatever. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Great stuff. Enjoy the rest of your time in Indy.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
Safe travels home.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Mary Kay.
You've lost
Cabot.
your title as entertainment coordinator on these travel ventures.
dog.
What happened? Did you
They
get hacked?
got you, dog.
Maybe you got hacked.
I have no idea what happened,
Hey.
but it was like all the blood fell out of my head.
One of the tricks that restaurants will play is they will hold back tables for the A-list
Right.
guest that walks in late.
Are you saying Jason is not A-list?
No, here's my fear. What happened?
Yeah.
They got a call after Jason made his reservation.
Yeah.
And the call was placed by Andy Reid, and he said, "Look, I know this is late, but I need a 10 top."
Me and the rest of the walruses need to come in.
And Andy's a big eater, so they know they're going to get a big bill out of him. And they looked at it and they were like, how do we pinch?
Who's this Lloyd guy?
Who's Lloyd? What team is he affiliated with? I don't know. Well, Andy Reid,
Right.
Christopher
right.
Lloyd, Jason Lloyd, I don't know. Let's make room, and we'll just bite the bullet on Jason, and we'll tell him that your reservation was canceled.
Let me
Sorry.
tell all my brothers out here. Let me just give you a little sidebar. See, this is the difference between white people and black people, right? There is a couple of things that really go to a man's soul, right? Like when you trying to set something up, and your moves, and you got the bottle of wine, and you trying to really have your people over. This is a business meeting. There is nothing wrong. This is nothing much that's more devastating than Jason Lloyd getting up there and be like, I got my team with me. I got the people with me. I'm big here. And they tell him he got his stuff electronically declined. That is a heartbeat. You like, whoa. Like I looked at Jay. Jay was like, oh, that's brother. I feel for you, brother.
Yeah, that's the worst thing that can happen. No, the worst thing that can happen is they come back to the table after you.
Credit card.
Oh, there's 10 people. You throw your credit card in. This happened to me on a ESPN. It was my fault, by the way. It is not, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I put it down. thinking, yeah, ESPN's nickel.
Yeah.
Mr. Crawford, I'm sorry, the card was declined. I had to put it on my personal one and get reimbursed.
Did anybody try to say, no, Jay, let me pay?
Oh, yeah, everybody did. And I'm like, no. And then, thank God, the waiter said, I'm looking at this now, and it says the expiration date is 4/17, whatever.
Boy. Right.
And we were 5/17. It was 1 month.
Yeah.
But and it hit me. I
that's
remember
your
getting a piece of mail that
Yep.
said it was, and that they weren't just going to send the card automatically.
Right. No.
I had to do something, and I didn't, and it was all my fault.
By the way,
dude, I was gutted.
You wanted to
I
get,
was gutted.
You wanted to get under the
I
table.
did.
By the way,
it was want to get away.
When G. Bush and I went for dinner with Leroy Horde and Bernie and Jason Duffner and Metcalf, who showed up like 3 hours late.
Yeah.
You and I were not putting our credit cards out.
No. Now, have you ever played credit card roulette?
Leroy was like, I got it.
I've
G and I were like, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm
Have
not
any
paying
of you
that
guys
$1,000
played
bill.
credit card roulette?
No.
And so I've won, and I've lost. I've won more than I've lost, because it's usually the way I always do it is just 1 for 1. Now sometimes we say, well, we'll take 2.
Hey, hold on.
And if there's 8 people, then you're responsible for
All
half
right,
of
well,
it.
let me ask you this.
There you go. I like this.
Here we go.
We'll
Let
get
me
to
ask you
these
this.
rules.
This
These
reminds
rules.
me of a situation when my wife and I had been dating a couple of months, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is 2009. We went out to lunch with some of her, like a couple of her friends, and then a couple. So it was like 5 couples, right? And at that time, I was making no money.
Right.
My career was in a different place than it is now.
Sure.
So I was, whatever. But so we go out and it was lunch. And usually when you go out with a group, most of the time we all split it.
Yeah.
Especially if not everybody knows each other, we all split it.
Right.
Maybe you get separate checks, whatever. But we were going to split it. But then as the dinner, I don't drink, right? My
Yeah.
wife doesn't drink.
Yeah.
We didn't have a drink. They're drinking bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, well, we shouldn't have to pay equal share.
Sure.
Now we did because I didn't want to.
You didn't want to be that guy.
That dude.
I know, but
But
listen,
I feel like in that
I've
case,
been in that case too.
Now,
with
there's been
big wine drinkers.
Yeah.
Now, listen, if the food prices are different, okay, fine, it's a little bit.
Yeah.
But if they're spending a couple of $100s on wine, which I'm not participating in, I feel like I shouldn't have to contribute to that.
I'm with you.
But I did. But I feel like I shouldn't have to.
Typically wine at a restaurant, I mean, we know that the prices can vary widely.
Upcharge game.
But I remember of all the groups that I was with NFL, college football, and Major League Baseball for a while. The baseball was the worst because those guys, Nomar Garciaparra was a sommelier.
Oh, boy.
Now,
What is a sommelier?
Wine
he's a
expert.
wine connoisseur. So I remember one dinner where
It means expensive.
And,
That's what
and
it means.
it does. And my red flags were going off when he was like, you a wine guy? I'm like, no. He goes, okay, so I'm going to educate you. So he says, he's talking to the restaurant sommelier about their wine list. And this dude is a legit, he can look at the name of something and go, okay, that's going to be a mid-90s from Northern California. And he was picking, he said he wanted 3 bottles for the table. And he pointed to the bottles, and I wasn't looking at the names. I was cross-scanning for the price.
Oh, my God.
$325.
Oh, my God.
$350. And I'm thinking, oh, my God. How is this going to happen? Because ESPN would always just expense everything, but not that.
They're not paying for a $300 bottle of wine.
And at the end of it, I'm assuming that he just said, give me the wine bill.
Yeah.
And he took care of it. But $1,000 for 3 bottles of wine for the table, that's no way am I doing that.
Here's the thing. Is there a rule? I do feel like it's a rule. If you go out and one person get it and they got the whole bill, right? Then the next time y'all go out, it is customary that you got to get that.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to get that off.
Pay it back.
Yeah.
You can't be just be
That's
like.
why it all comes out in the wash.
Now here's the thing about drinks too. Now if you gotta wonder if you all been drinking at a bar, and you're hanging out with your boys, right? He go back up and get a beer, right? If he gets a beer, then it is customary that you now have to reciprocate the next round.
That's right.
But you have to have equal or greater value. If he comes with a beer and a shot, you owe him a beer and a shot.
Right.
So
minimum.
At least that's minimum.
Yeah, right.
And you also have to get his straggler friend that just came in.
You gotta get the straggler friend.
He got a straggler.
You kind of do.
His boy came up and he been here.
Because you don't want to say, you don't want to leave him out.
Yeah, it's like he's at the table now. That's Jason's man's. He went to Kent. So you just gotta get him that. You got to give him that max shot,
That's
the
true.
BGs and the Kents and the Akrons and yeah. But here's the thing: you might want to exit stage left if the bill's too high. So
Get sick and you got to leave.
Come to think of it, I think G might have been in the bathroom when Leroy was paying the bill.
No,
you just left.
I left. I was
You
gone.
just left. I forgot.
You just
I was
left.
like, where's G?
Irish goodbye. See ya.
No,
Just remove yourself from the
I
equation.
dapped him up. But Eric Metcalf had came in with his peoples. So I said, well,
Metcalf came in as we were
as
leaving.
we were
Yeah,
leaving.
that's
So
what I remember you said that.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna just listen because they try to get me in that. Metcalf was talking that talk. Yeah, we out here tonight.
But
I
I'm
said,
betting that Leroy was like strong-arming that he was going to take the
Yeah,
check.
he-
oh no, he held
Yeah,
it down.
yeah.
My man held it down. Now
Yeah.
he had some lawyers on the left hand side, and I didn't
Even
know.
Bernie knew not to.
Yeah, well,
grab it.
Bernie will be quick to pick it up too.
No, but I'm saying, I think even Bernie knew that Leroy's paying.
But he
Maybe.
was with
Yeah,
this
maybe.
golfer though.
Right. Bernie brought his buddy.
Did you guys sit at the table front corner, like at the window?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's Leroy's spot.
Yeah.
And they treat Leroy like he's family. Mm-hmm. And
It was great.
I
The
get
place
it.
is great.
I get it. I'm guessing they give him a great deal. I'm sure they probably don't charge him for the alcohol, which is where all the big money is, like the markup is.
Yeah.
So
We spent a lot on food, though. We all got steaks
and the food there can be
I bet you
But the food was
Duffner,
great.
by the way, of that whole group, Duffner's probably got the most money.
probably. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And by the way,
He looked
Leroy-
he sat like right next to me.
it was
Duffner.
and he was regular as
He
hell.
looked like he was like wearing he was
He was
not
cool
dressed
as-
up
he was-
nice or anything.
He was cool
like,
as hell. He has a couple.
he was
nice
really
stories.
chill.
Good.
I'm like, how did Leroy know? Yeah, Leroy held it down. But listen, there was no options in that, bro.
What's the biggest food bill you've ever seen?
I just had it yesterday.
You did?
Yeah.
What'd you say? What'd you have?
Man, I went to like Fleming's, right?
Okay.
And so here's the thing, like, I don't make my mom and dad pay for like food. So that wasn't cool. I got my wife, and I was with two other. It was another guy. Branson was with me, and Dave. He works at McKinley as like the film director there.
Okay.
And so I was there. Man, it wasn't crazy, but it was like
There's a lot of people.
that's 6 people. So now you talk about appetizers. And then when you go to them places, you ain't getting no sides with nothing. This ain't Texas Roadhouse.
Right.
You go get this a la carte size. I'm thinking like it had to be like 900 or something crazy. But for me, I got an apartment. See, y'all can just invite people over to the crib. 900 is like
You guys must have seen huge.
You might
bills.
see thousands.
I mean, I've paid big bills.
Yeah.
But the biggest ones I've seen were in group settings like that.
Yeah.
But we were talking, I'm talking in some instances, it would be an entire group, like an entire baseball group trip.
Oh, hell no.
At the
Oh,
end
yeah,
of a
yeah.
World
Oh, hell.
Series where, okay,
Hell no.
tomorrow's going to be our dinner. And everybody's in, so it's 30 people, and it's everybody's drinking,
Right,
and
right,
everybody's having appetizers,
Right.
and all bets are off. And I've seen
Yeah.
close to $40,000.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
all.
no.
And that was a ton
But per
of liquor.
person, I mean,
We had probably a $3,000 dinner in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest that was with the Athletic. We had when we were still venture capital before we were New York Times. That venture capital
Those
money.
days are gone, right?
Those days are long gone.
Yeah.
I went to believe it or not, there is this, I think it's called Bear. The name doesn't matter because it's not anywhere near here. There's a steakhouse in upstate New York in literally the middle of nowhere. It's like somewhere between Albany and Syracuse in some small town I can't even think of, in the middle of nowhere. So I was living in Utica, New York at the time. This is early 2000s. And my buddy Kevin was with his wife and his sister and his kids, and they were going to Cooperstown. And they're like, he calls me up and he goes, "You got to meet me at this restaurant. It's in the middle of nowhere, some small rinky-dink town. This is supposedly the best steakhouse ever, even though, blah, blah." He said, "My sister told me about it, blah." Okay, so we're in this rinky-dink town. It's so Kevin, his wife and his family, they're all black. I'm the only white guy. We walk in the restaurant. They're the only black people in the restaurant. We're in some small town, and I'm like, Are we sure this is
We
okay?
good?
Like, are we okay? So
We
he's
good?
like, and my friend, and so we go in there. It was the greatest steak I'd ever had in my life.
Wow.
I cannot believe it. You would never believe it. The bill was like $1,500. It was only, we didn't drink it all. It was just for the steaks and the appetizers. It was only 4 adults. The 3 other adults besides me were all skinny and kids. It was a great place, and all the people were extremely nice. $1,500. Okay, my buddy is the head accountant for the NAACP. He makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
I didn't make anything at that time. I think I was making like 18 grand a year at that point. I see the bill and I'm like, oh my God. And he puts his hand on my shoulder. He goes, I got you. And I said, thank God, because even my portion would have been like $250.
Wow.
And that would have been way.
Yeah,
that was the biggest bill I ever saw. It was a great, but I was like, oh my God, but it turned out to be an incredible experience.
For a
12
second, your
o'clock
heart
lunch hour
stopped.
of UCSS is brought to us by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team.
One interesting thing I found out at the Combine, the Cowboys take the media for a party every year to Nobu in Malibu. The Cowboys go to Malibu and spend $50,000 on the media at Nobu.
Jerry Jones is smart, man.
That's nuts.
I'll tell you.
I may
this.
not like him, but he's smart.
Well, that's a smart move.
It's nuts.
I
You're
actually.
buying favorable
And you know what?
coverage.
Jerry didn't even care. Like, I was talking to some of the Cowboys people, like, he didn't care what you say. His whole thing is just spell my name right. He doesn't care. Say whatever
But
you
he's
want.
also savvy enough to know that it's a lot harder to stick a knife in somebody.
Well, I don't
when they
think
paid a meal.
I think he doesn't care if you stick a knife in him, just so you're talking about him. Just spell my name right. He does
That's
not
it.
care.
He may be a terrible GM, which is obviously true, but that's a great attitude to have.
We went to
Because,
the
like, who
Nobu
cares?
in Manhattan when we launched Cold Pizza. Our executive producer said he took all of us there, all of the anchors there for a dinner exclusively, and he said, when we become a hit, I'm going to bring everybody back. And when we hit far exceeded our ratings expectations, we went back.
Wow.
With a big
Everybody
party.
talks about Nobu.
And then-
I'm not. It's a sushi place. Right?
It is. No,
It's very good.
not sushi, but
Very
it
good.
is.
We went to the
first of
one-
all, it's an experience.
we went to the one in San Francisco.
It's like the Marble Room.
Well, what is it? Is it steak? It's a
It's
Japanese
seafood.
steakhouse.
It's Asian food, seafood,
Yeah.
but it's just the experience. It's
Wait a
just
second, you don't eat seafood.
No, I don't. But I found things on the menu that I would eat. I do eat. Like they had some chicken, a chicken dish that was out of this world. Like how do you do that with chicken? It's chicken.
How many Nobus are there? Do we know?
I
Are there
think
a lot?
6 or 7
not
maybe.
many.
But it's an
No,
incredible experience.
It is like it's like the Marble Room. It's like you're going there. It's definitely a destination for an anniversary or a big event.
Have you
and
ever-
there were celebrities everywhere you looked. It was insane.
What's the place in wine country?
Napa.
Sonoma?
No, it's Napa. The table. It's like $7,000 for a meal.
Oh, is that the place that?
A pantry, chefs. God, hang on, I'll find it.
Nobody.
Wait,
nobody
are
who
you
watches
thinking of
our
the
show
place
is gonna
that
know the
Newsom,
answer.
that Gavin Newsom went to
These are high
in San
rollers.
Francisco?
Yes, French
That's the
Laundry.
French Laundry.
French Laundry.
French Laundry.
Didn't even have to look it up.
Yeah,
Got it.
that place.
Kevin, I was talking to Kevin Love about it. He said you have to go just once for the experience.
Man, get
It's
up
like
outta
a
here.
10-course meal, but it's like $5,000.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Hey,
That talk about living like in La La
I know.
Land.
He's like, you got to go.
gotta go.
You got to go.
Yeah,
You got to
easy
go.
for you to say, Mr. $30 million a year.
hey, I told him
What could they possibly put on your plate? For
Nothing.
For $500 a bite.
But
It's a
we went-
10-course meal,
You know why people go there?
to say
To
they
be
went.
seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
But we went to a place in Napa that was owned by the same chef. It was fantastic, and it was
As
not
the French
$5,000.
as French Laundry?
Same as French Laundry.
Okay.
I can't remember the
I'm
name
sure it
of
was just as good.
It was
This
it
snobby
was,
portion of the
it
show.
was
and by the way,
Yeah.
Bull, I did lie. The biggest check that I ever wrote was $21,000 not to get married. By the way, that's a whole thing. Like,
Oh, that's from your.
yeah, 21. Like it was like when you
Wow,
when you do
gee.
catering,
Yeah.
and then they tell you like that is non-refundable. Oh, they're not lying about that non-refundableness. And I did that's
How long before the wedding did you cancel?
Oh, we got in an argument on the way to my mom's house to give my mom the invitations to get to her sisters and brothers. That was
Oh,
like a
you
week.
weren't there the whole day. It's like a 40-minute story. G told us all at the Cleveland.
$21,000. I said, nah, you don't like it. Wedding's off. I don't like that. I don't like your tone right now. You're doing too much.
I don't like your tone.
Wedding-
to the
wedding's
point
off.
that I'm going to write a check for $21,000.
They had already had it.
That is the
was already
greatest
written.
food bill ever.
Yeah,
because
that-
you didn't even
I
enjoy
didn't
it.
even enjoy it.
true.
Nobody got the food.
Like they was like, wow,
And
man.
your caterer got a week in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
If you're smart out there, don't have a
Please.
massive wedding.
Please don't.
Save the money for a house.
Yes, don't do it. Please.
And if you're in Napa, go to Ad Hoc. That's the name
Nobody's
of the place.
going ad. Nobody's going.
Why not?
Because they're not hoity-toity like you and Jay.
And you got to put if you have to put a second mortgage in your house to go to one dinner, it's probably not.
No. This was very reasonable. It's
you got to hock your house to go there.
No. Thomas Keller's the chef. He's the French Laundry guy.
Oh, okay.
And this place was very reasonable. It was fantastic. We had a great dinner there.
Is there
Ad Hoc
is there a
in
limit
Yountville.
to how much you pay for a steak?
No.
Nope.
No.
You pay, yeah.
I think
There isn't.
For me, I think I'm 250. 250.
Can I give a free plug?
250.
Sure.
Yeah.
The best steak in the area, Strip Steakhouse in Avon.
haven't been there.
JoJo's Bar in Chagrin Falls.
I got to go there too. Now, me
I've
and
never
Boom-
been. Everybody
Unbelievable.
talks about strip.
Strip.
One of these days.
Well,
Sensational.
Not
when
right
you
now.
allowed to eat solid food again, you call me
I'm eating
back up.
solid food, but not
You-
steak.
You got the lettuce and the grass diet,
Steak,
but
though, is
instead-
not horrible for you. It's a lot of protein.
yeah, but
protein.
not, right now I'm only eating lean protein.
There you go. There you
All
go.
right.
There is.
We had Harry
Okay.
and Izzy's on back-to-back nights.
One of
I'm
the
done with
most
steak for a
bizarre finishes to a baseball game since last week. Because the most bizarre finish we've ever seen, for me anyhow, was the walk-off, strikeout, game ended in a tie. But that's been topped, and we'll talk about that in overtime. We'll see you there.
Right after I pee.
Yellow card.